Privilege and pleasure to welcome our Honorable Director Sir, Professor Mahesh Chandra Govil the Honorable Chief Guest, Padma Shri Professor Vimal Kumar Roy former Director, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, and present head, R.C. Bose Center for Cryptology and Security, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. The guest of honor, Professor Vijay Bhattarajan the Global Innovation Chair Professor in Cybersecurity at the University of Newcastle, Australia. Our registered Dr. Authentic Naran Biswasji, all deans, HODs, my departmental colleagues, all faculty and staff members, and my dear participants in the inauguration ceremony of Faculty Development Program on Cybersecurity. The Department of Computer Science and Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Sikkim, is organizing this 1 week long program with the financial assistance from AICT Training and Learning Academy, Ministry of Education, Government of India. The FDP aims to provide an insight and research direction in the field of cybersecurity to faculty members, researchers, and the program was open to the participants comprising early career faculty members, doctoral students, postgraduate students in the field of computer science and engineering. We have received an overwhelming response from academia and industry for participation in this program, and total 166 participants have been applied for this program. Among them, 148 participants representing 22 states of this country are attending this program. This 1 week long program has total 15 sessions covering all aspects of cybersecurity, starting from basic to advanced stage. Each session will be covered by eminent academicians and experts from academia and industry. In this inaugural session, Padma Shri Professor Bimal Roy will deliver the keynote lecture. Later, Dr. Arunabha Roy from Monash University, Malaysia, will focus on active authentication using adversarial machine learning approaches. Before that, Professor Vijay Bhattarajan the guest of honor of this program, will deliver a keynote speech on cybersecurity if his time permits. Tomorrow, first session will be covered by Professor Ramakrishna Chela from NIT at Chandigarh. He will deliver lecture on symmetric key cryptography. The second session will be taken by Dr. Emmanuel S. Piliji from Malviya National Institute of Technology, Jaipur, on the topic cloud security. The last session of tomorrow will be covered by Dr. Arijit Karati from National Sun Yat-sen University, Taiwan, on the topic edge security. The third day first session will be covered by Dr. C.B. Sharmaji from Dr. CBS Cyber Security Services LLP. He will deliver lecture on legal mandate and international standards. The second session will be taken care by Professor Santosh Biswas from Indian Institute of Technology, Bhilai, on the topic event-based intrusion detection system for cybersecurity. Fourth day first session will be covered by our Honorable Director Sir on online advertisement fraud detection. The second session will be taken by Professor Ghoshtopada Biswas from Indian Institute of Technology, Dhanbad, on the topic public key cryptography, RSA statistics. The last session will be covered by Dr. Moni Madhukarji from IBM India Private Limited on blockchain technology. The last day of this program is covered by Dr. Mohudas Gupta from NIT Raipur on the topic attribute-based encryption decryption techniques. this is an advanced topic in the field of cybersecurity. Further, since stress management is a real challenge during COVID-19 pandemic, the second session of the last day will be taken by Ms. Polome Mukherjee from Art of Living on Stress Management. A performance evaluation test will also be conducted as per the direction of AICT Auto Academy in the last session of the last day. Finally, I hope this 5 days long faculty development program will enhance your knowledge and skill in cybersecurity and motivate you to do research in this emerging area of technology. Enjoy each session of the program joyfully. Wishing you all the best. Thank you. Now, I would like to invite our Honorable Director, Sir, to deliver the welcome address.
Distinguished guest, Padam Shri Professor Vimal Kumarji and Professor Vijay Vardarajanji, Deans, HODs, faculty members, staff, and my dear students, participants, a very good afternoon to all of you. I hope all of you are safe and in good health during this pandemic. You know, this faculty development program is on cybersecurity and it is being organized in virtual mode due to unprecedented times of COVID-19. We all know the limitation of the virtual event, but I am happy and appreciate you all for joining the program and the coordinator of this program, Dr. Sangram. I'm happy to introduce to you the chief guest of today's ceremony. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome our chief guest, Padam Shri Professor Vipin Kumar Royji, former director and head of RC Post Center for Cryptology and Security, Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. Welcome you, sir. It is an honor. It is an honor to have you with us today. I'm happy to welcome our guest of honor, Professor Vijay Vardarajanji, Global Innovation Chair in Cybersecurity, Faculty of Engineering and Built Environment, University of Newcastle, Australia. I welcome you, sir. It is our privilege to have you with us today and sparing your valuable time to guide the young participants. In spite of limitation of NIT Sikkim, we have been organizing many faculty development programs, seminars, workshops, expert lectures, etc. And all of them have been very informative and great importance. We conduct such events regularly through which the participants can gain new knowledge in contemporary areas. As you know, India ranked third in terms of highest number of internet users in the world after USA and China. The number has grown sixfold during 2012 to 17, with a compounded annual growth of 44%. At the same time, has a spot among the top 10 farm sending countries in the world, along with USA, and India was ranked among the top 5 countries to be affected by cybercrime, according to a report by online security firm Symantec Corporation. This is the reason the government of India and our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji continuously emphasize on cybersecurity initiatives, advanced technologies and digital transformation, making the departments and systems advance. But on the other hand, cyber criminals with advanced technologies and with more complex methods continuously looking for new avenues and pose new threats to the system. Threats associated with technology are not just for business, but also for government. Cybersecurity Challenges are your is countries consider in collaboration with other technological and cybersecurity. Future cybersecurity is are Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, National Critical Information guidelines are issued by Information Security Office. Cyber contains regular audit for government websites, crisis management plan, regular training programs for the National Data Protection Bill in 2019. In many prestigious technical institute countries, take children approaches in federal government use this faculty development of depth of cybersecurity and in new knowledge tech and crime in this digital domain. Now, in coming slide, who will be delivering lecture on various advanced technologies in cybersecurity, including blockchain, lattice-based cryptography, attribute-based encryption techniques, cloud security, Internet of Things security, event-based intrusion detection systems, and many more. I hope the program is going to be of great benefit as it amounts to a great exchange of knowledge and know-how among different scientific communities and researchers. I would like to offer my sincere thanks to Atal Academy, AICT New Delhi, for granting the financial support. Atal was first formed in September 2018 by then Honorable Union Minister, Minister of Education, Shri Prakash Javadekar. It has been successful even in the pandemic situation in supporting technical institutions to foster research, innovation, and entrepreneurship through training in various trust areas. I believe this program would be an informative, productive, and enjoyable opportunity to all the participants to gain new knowledge and get words with the latest developments in the domain of cybersecurity. I wish great success to the program. Appreciate the efforts of the coordinator and the organizers of this event. I once again pay my regards and get guests, guests of honor, keynote speakers, experts for sparing their valuable time to be part of this event. I am also acknowledge the sincere efforts and zeal to learn of participants. Thank you all. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat. I welcome both Professor Vimal Kumarji and Vijay Vardarajanji for sparing really valuable time, and I think all participants will be eager to listen you, sir. Whatever time you can spare, uh, do the efforts in this area because this is a very important area, right? And one of the trust area, I think we have to work. And thank you once again, and I welcome you both.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your internal speech. And also inform Professor Roy was the director of Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata, during 2010 to 2015. He was the Dean of Studies, ISI Kolkata, during 2006 to 2008. Now he is professor and head in Archibald Center for Sociology and Security. Professor Roy becomes the chairman of National Statistical Commission, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, Government of India, in 2009. He has received prestigious Padma Shri Award from Government of India in 2015. He has also received Teachers Award from Indian National Science Academy in 2014, Reliance Platinum Jubilee Award from National Academy of Science India in 2007, and IBM Faculty Award for Research, Teaching and Initiative in Cryptology in 2007. Professor Roy is also nominated as Fellow of Indian Society for Probability and Statistics in 2014 and Fellow of National Academy of Sciences India in 2010. He has more than 36 years of teaching and research experience and serves as a chairman or member of different professional bodies in India and abroad. He has completed more than 22 research and development projects and supervised more than 25 PhD students. He has published more than 150 research papers in international, national journals and conference papers. Now I invite Professor Bimal Roy sir to deliver the keynote lecture.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. So first, let me thank the organizer for inviting me, and also for such a long and very, great introduction. So this is not really required. I think the subject matter that matters. So I get really quickly into the subject. Some issues that are very important for our nation or the subject as a whole. So I'll talk about 2-3 issues. There are plenty of issues, but in about 30 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes, I'll try to highlight some 2-3 issues that's going to concern the Indian government also. So first thing that I point out, after I was appointed the chairman of National Statistical Commission in 2019 July, I had a meeting with Honorable Prime Minister, because he appoints all these chairmen of these commissions. And then we were having a nice discussion. He was telling me what he's expecting out of me, and he wants to know what do I expect from the Prime Minister to carry out my work. So I told him, sir, there is an issue in many people's mind that government hides data or doesn't publish data or publishes data only discriminately. It's not really very open domain. So first thing I would like you to make a very transparent digital system for the government of India, and all government data or information except the ones which is related to Indian national security should be put in public domain on a cyber, some web page, some cyber domain. And then he said, वो तो ठीक ही है प्रोफेसर साहब, लेकिन प्राइवेसी को क्या होगा? So he puts a very pertinent question. And that's what I start with my talk. So privacy is very important. So I do not mind putting things on a public domain, but naturally, if I'm a defaulter in a bank, and my name should not be published to everybody else, there's certain notion of privacy. So how can we publish data on a public domain or in a cyberspace somewhere? People can access it with without compromising the privacy of the individual. So that was his concern. So we have a committee in the government. Because of the pandemic, things become very slow. but we have kind of wrapped up and we're making a policy how to publish data so that the data is available for all practical purpose, yet the privacy is not compromised. So I'll just give an example. So I like to give an example which I use in my usual teaching. That's what is my profession, my love. So this example is a best example to explain what is meant by privacy and what you can do preserving privacy. So you want to compromise privacy. So long back, I was trying to find out how many of my students in the hostel they drink alcohol. Now this is in the government institution, in the hostel, strictly prohibited to drink alcohol. But still it happens. I want to find out what is the extent of this one. If I ask a student, hey, do you drink alcohol in the hostel? How would he or she react? First of all, they may get very upset. They may get very angry. Secondly, even if they're a little polite, they may say, okay, sir, this is not a subject that I want to talk to you. This is my private matter. If the student is further polite, he or she may give an answer, but can you really trust that answer? So privacy is very important here. People think whether they drink alcohol or not is a very private matter, and I have no right to know that in a public domain. He is not going to respond. So I respect their privacy, but I want to find out one thing. I want to find out what percentage of my students do take alcohol. I have no interest on the individual habits, but as a society, as a student body in the institute, what percent of my students do take alcohol? I think this is also important for us to know. Is it 10%, is it 20%, 30%? Now, if it is very rampant, we have to take some action. So I devised a method. That's what I'll talk about. And that will explain what I mean by privacy and what I mean by people can get the information preserving privacy. So I told the students, let me put two questions. Question number one, do you take alcohol in the hostel? The answer is yes or no. Second question, are you born between January 1 and June 30? Very naive, useless question, but very important for me. We'll see later on. Are you born between January 1 and June 30? Answer is again yes or no. And then I ask a student, you toss a coin. If it is head, you answer the first question. If it is tail, you answer the second question. Okay? And we can write it on a piece of paper with capital Y or capital N. Okay, and leave it on my table in my office somewhere. So what is the data I'm looking for? A bunch of capital Y and capital N. Now, why the students should participate in this game honestly? I told, okay, we think from these answers, these Y's and N's, can I find out your individual habit? The students think, and after a while they say, yes, I don't think we can find out our individual habit. Two reasons. Number one, from one single capital letter, it's impossible to find out by even a strong handwriting expert whether whose handwriting is this one. Just one capital letter, Y or N. So I don't know who has actually answered what. And if by some magic I even find out that, well, this boy has answered capital Y, then I'll say what I don't know, which question he has answered. Because you're tossing the coin. If it is head, you are answering first question, tell you as the second question. And you don't tell me the outcome of your toss. So I have no way to know which question you answered. So I am preserving both your identity and your response. Your identity through just one single capital letter, and no handwriting expert can find out your identity from one single capital letter. That's preserving identity. Decide me your value, because from this Y or N, because I don't know the outcome of a toss, I don't know which question you answered. So for me, it's impossible to find out whether you drink alcohol or not. Now, this can be mathematically proven using Shannon's notion of entropy, that I really have no information. But that takes a little bit more mathematics, but you can trust me. I don't know, at some point of time, people might have studied or will study Shannon's entropy theory. With that, I could give a formal mathematical proof that actually I have no information from this bunch of Y's and N's. Now what I do? I can remember this data even today. About 400 students responded. Oh, I'm getting tempted by your tea and snacks. So I have to come back to Sikkim and claim my tea and snacks. Okay, jokes apart. So I got 400 answers. 236, I think 136 yes, and 264 no, N. So that's my information. 400 students, I get 136 yes and 264 no. Now let me try to analyze this. A very simple algorithm. Okay, let me. I love this interaction with the students. They can participate in my discussion. So first trivial thing is that since it is head, you answer question 1, tail, you answer question 2. So of the 400, how many are expected to answer question 1? Simple, half of them, 200. And how many would expect to answer question 2? The other 200. 50 chance. Head and tail. Now of the 200 who answered the second question, okay, how many would answer yes? Now comes that very useless knife question. Are you born between January 1 and June 30? But now it's so important here. So half the year. So of the 200 students, I don't know which 200, but of the 200 students who answered second question, how many would answer yes? Again, half of them, about 100. So of the 136 yes, 100 must have come from the second question. The other 36 must have come from the first question. So 200 students answered first question and 36 answered yes. So I have very straightforward, 18% of my students do take alcohol. So I'm doing this computation. I find out what I want to find out, but I have not compromised with anyone's privacy. I don't know any single individual's habit. This is one example, but now it depends on the data. So we are doing an extensive committee analysis of all the ministries and their data and see how we can publish all the data in the cyber domain. People can access, people can do anything with their data. But albeit, we have to maintain the privacy of the individuals. Now this is a national challenge and Prime Minister himself has given me this task. So I've actually formed a committee, so people are working. And I think in another year, you would see all government data which doesn't affect national security on the public domain. Nothing to be hidden secret anywhere. Absolutely open. And in fact, I told Prime Minister ji that you call Sach Bharat. Now you should give this campaign name Sach Tatha. So transparent information. So we'll go for that. And Prime Minister agreed. And so when the committee gives report, government studies the report carefully. And once they accept the report, they try to work towards this publication of all the government data on the cyber domain. Okay, I think the Prime Minister would probably announce this program as Sach Tatha or this Digital India is going to be transparent. That's what we are looking for. This is problem number 1. Problem number 2, because I think Honorable Director was mentioning blockchain, so I thought I give this example. Now we have these elections in these EVMs, and you see that after the election is over, always the opponent, the person who loses, will complain that there has been some harassment with the EVM machines. And what is the main complaint? I have listened to the complaint of Arvind Kejriwal ji. Actually, I like him very much. He's very learned, very open-minded. He's also a IIT Kharagpur graduate. I once met him in Delhi also. Very energetic, very pragmatic also. So he did put a question that the government has to prove to him that the votes that I have casted, vote is finished today, and the counting starts after 2-3 days. That in these 2-3 days, the government didn't change the data. The election commission is independent, but anyway, they are also appointed by the government. So how is the government going to ensure that no data was altered during this time, finishing of the vote and beginning of the counting? So a very legitimate question. So he didn't say that government is doing malpractice in election commission, but what he wanted is that an explanation of the government, a proof kind of thing, that this is foolproof and election commission did not do any error with the data which stored in the machine. So this could extend to also the cyber voting. So if you can do it more tangibly in less time, you can also extend our voting over the cyber domain, or even through our mobiles and etc. Now, so how do we ascertain that? Again, I think I don't think Kejriwalji was trying to point out that the government election commission is playing foul. But what he wanted, I think people have misunderstood that. He was I think, asking for an explanation that this is safe. He didn't say that this is untrue, but but he wanted a guarantee that this is something you need to prove to get the confidence of the voters. Even the opposition people cannot speak anything against you. So now, what is the solution? So I have talked to Election Commission, I think a year back, and I'm into a project like this. But then there are issues here. So I say, okay, now blockchain technology has come a very effective these days. And what does blockchain do? I think there are some experts who will talk about blockchain. You need 3-4 hours to even explain what is blockchain. But in one word, blockchain is a kind of storing data, which in some platform, some technology. So it is immutable, that no one can change that data, and it is publicly verifiable. So everybody can get into the blockchain and verify that things are in order. So this is publicly verified blockchain. So I just recommend that what is our vote? Vote is basically a symbol or just maybe a number between 0 to 3. You can number the candidates. Okay. Now, why not we put the votes in blockchain? So in the EVM, we have to have a little bit additional hardware and little bit of software facility, implement a blockchain there. So whenever I'm voting, the vote gets into the blockchain. And publicly, there are lots of implementation of blockchain, so you can make it publicly verifiable blockchain for every EVM. Okay, and if you can do it, then no one can question, because blockchains are proven to be immutable. Nobody is doubting the blockchain technology. At least as of today, nobody has been able to break any blockchain as of now. So till something is compromised there at the blockchain technology, if we use this blockchain technology in the voting machines, the government is giving a proof that this is immutable. We did not do any foul play. But then the next question comes. Now, where this community is very important. If I have to implement a blockchain in EVM, there could be an overhead. In India, you think of a booth, there will be a long queue of the voters. Okay. Now, if your vote takes time, even if it takes 20 seconds more time, because once you vote, they have to enter this vote into the blockchain. Okay, now, what is the overhead there? We can't really, in a country like India, in a booth there are 1,000, 1,200 candidates, we can't really afford much overhead. So, we are exploring a nice way of implementing this, the best implementation of blockchain for this storing the votes, so that it becomes usable. It becomes really usable. It just doesn't become theory. And we are not at it yet. So I could just ask this community, even the students, to think of how we can use blockchains in the EVMs in a manner that it takes no time. It has to be a very efficient implementation. So that would give a proof of secure notion of these EVM machines. Okay, and my third thing, I'll tell this a little old one, but I think this is very pertinent here. See, these days we keep data in cloud. Okay, so this is somewhat related to that, but not exactly cloud. But you can put a. I don't want to get in the cloud company right away, but I'll give some glimpse of what I mean by this one. I remember some time back, maybe a few years back, that time still Urjit Patel was the RBI governor. So Urjit was still a good friend of mine. I read a newspaper article in Times of India that one couple complained against a bank that everything was stolen from their locker. Okay, and the police didn't take a complaint because how do the bank lockers work? I have a key as a customer, and the bank manager has a key, and they demonstrate that we put both the keys together and turn it to the right, and the locker opens. With the manager's key, the bank cannot open the locker. But with my key, I cannot open the locker. Now, this is basically two-way authentication. I think there's somebody talking about authentication. So this is process of authenticating the bank as well as the customer. These two keys. But still, the locker was empty. So something must have happened. And the bank say you had nothing. You are claiming that you had something. They say no, I had a lot of jewelry and I have lost it. So they file a case. Okay, and then I was reading this case verdict by the judge. The judge was very smart. He didn't get into all this technology at all. He asked a very simple question. This couple, did you prepare a list of articles that you put in the locker, and did the bank verify it? We have no such system here. He said no. The bank said we have no system of verifying what are the articles they put in the locker. And just if you don't do it, anybody can empty their locker and say that I had 10 crore ka jewelry. So since there is no system of making a list which is being double checked by the bank, the couple cannot be given a verdict in their favor. So I like that verdict. But that was not all. Then something came into my mind. I went to my bank. I had a locker. I asked the manager, now comes the cryptography here, or security here. I asked the manager, I have a key of the locker and you have a key of the locker. My first question is that, can you give me a proof that my key cannot be reproduced? I remember I was in a hostel all my life in school and college. I used to lose my key, and there will be a locksmith outside the campus, and he will come with some pudding, and he'll put the pudding on the lock. In 2 minutes, he'll give me a key. I told Mr. Manager, I want a proof that my key cannot be, reconstructed. He says, how can I give you a proof? And if you can give a proof, you don't get my confidence. And then I asked the second question, which floored him. I told, what you have demonstrated me that my key and your key, this pair opens this lock, opens this locker. But there could be another 100 million combination of pairs of keys, which could open this one. So can you give me a proof that there do not exist any other pair of keys which can open this locker? And he spoke, Professor Saab, excuse me, I have no answer. Please leave me alone. And he was shattered. But then I wrote an article on Times of India about my concern about the security of the locker. First I said that I'm not questioning the integrity of the bank. I'm sure the bank does a good job. They do an honest job. They have full integrity. But still, I think the bank will have a moral duty to give to us a confidence that you are doing it right. Doing right is not enough. You have to give us confidence that you are doing it right. So I need a proof of security. Okay, so I wrote an article, Times of India, and immediately in the morning, first I get a phone call from this Central Visitors Commission. One joint secretary calls me. He says, "Sir, are you recommending that all these lockers are unsafe?" I told, "Why did you say that?" I didn't say that. All I wanted to say that you have to give me a proof of security. That's what this community is all about. Okay, we have to give proof of security. I am asking for that. I never said, please don't misquote. I am not complaining. I'm not telling that they are unsafe. I'm telling that you give me a proof that you are safe. Okay. Okay, I think he was convinced. Then I get a phone call from the RBI. He says, Governor, nice to talk to you. So Purjit and I talk to each other. And he says, hey, Bimal, do you want me to change all the lockers throughout the country? I didn't say that either. So, but you have to give me some proof. So, what is this subject? This subject is called in cryptography or in cyber domain secret sharing with a proof of security. So, I'll probably stop here because there are other speakers. This is a very important area. That's it. Secret sharing of a secret. See, there all this is being shared by me and the bank. This could be very general. So there could be something, some data with the college, which maybe I'll tell you. Have an example. Maybe the director and at least two of the deans should agree to access this confidential information. Okay, we don't trust the director. I don't want in any space the secret to be held by only one person. That's what it happens normally. But even when I was the director of the institute, I didn't want to hold everything in my hand. It has to be a lot of other people. We have to define a structure who can access what. So this is what is called secret sharing. And in the cyber domain, this is in the cloud computing domain. When you put data in the cloud, the secret sharing is going to be important. And secret sharing, this notion with a clear concept of a proof of security. So somebody has to give me a proof. This is what we are all doing for. And then the last thing is that we have to give a nice implemented algorithm. It's ultimately a chip, which is going to function. So the mathematics is fine, but that is only the beginning. Unless you can actually make a locker with that mathematics, physically the locker is there, nothing is achieved. So we need first some mathematicians, then computer scientists, the electronics, hardware engineers to follow through step by step to come to a product. So all the things that I'm talking about, you have all the three steps. Okay, so I think that's enough for today. I've talked about three different areas. I think if I get another question, I may talk about another 50 more different areas. But I'm sure the other speakers will probably cover many of the topics. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your informative and knowledgeable talk, focusing importance on privacy, security, and secret sharing with real-life examples. I am sure that the participants are getting motivated from your lecture to do research and think on the challenges in the area of cybersecurity. I am looking for more sessions like this from you in future also.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. I think you can circulate my email address to all the participants. If they want to send me email, any query, anytime, I read all my emails and answer within 24 hours. So you can share my email ID to each one of them.
Okay, sir. Sure, sir. Thank you, sir, for spending your valuable time with us. Now I am going to introduce the guest of honor of today's inaugural ceremony, Professor Vijay Vardharajan ji. On behalf of National Institute of Technology, Sikkim, it is my privilege and pleasure to welcome Professor Vijay Vardharajan ji, a renowned professor in cybersecurity in Australia and abroad. Professor Vardharajan ji has held the Global Innovation Chair in Cybersecurity at the University of Newcastle, Australia since March 2017. He is also the director of Advanced Cybersecurity Engineering Research Center at Newcastle. Previously, he was Microsoft Chair Professor in Innovation in Computing at Macquarie University, during 2001 to 2017. At Macquarie, he conceived the concept of an interdisciplinary institute cybersecurity and was the founder of MQ Cyber Security Hub. Prior to this, he was Dean of School of Computing and IT at University of Western Sydney during 1996 to 2000. From 1988 to 1995, Professor Portharajanji headed worldwide security research for HP Labs in Bristol, UK. Under his dynamic leadership at HP Labs, 6 different security technologies were transferred into successful HP products, generating billions of dollars. He also headed the Technical Security Strategy Initiative at HP under the Senior Vice President USA. From 1987 to 88, he was research manager at British Telecom Research Labs, UK. During 1985 to 86, first he was research fellow and then lecturer in computer science at Plymouth and Reading University. He attained his PhD in computer and communication security from Plymouth and Exeter University in 1984, sponsored by PT Research Lab. He attained his electronics engineering degree from Sussex University, UK in 1981 and was awarded the 1981 prize of the Institution of Electrical Engineers IEE for outstanding performance at Sussex University, as well as the Committee of Vice Chancellors and Principal Award. Professor Portharajanji had several visiting positions at different institutions over the years, including Isaac Newton Institute of Mathematical Sciences at Cambridge University, Senior Research Scientist at Microsoft Research Cambridge, Senior Research Scientist at the Institute of Mathematical Sciences at National University of Singapore, Invited Professor at French National Lab, Invited Professor at the Indian Institute of Technology, Research Scientist at Kudzu Research Lab, Fellow at British Telecom Research Lab, UK, Visiting Professor at eScience Institute, Edinburgh University, Adjunct at Oxford Martin School, Oxford University, UK, and Visiting Professor at the Chinese Academy of Science. He has also been a Senior Visiting Fellow with the Australian Academy of Science and the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Recently, he has been appointed as Marketer Fellow by the German Research Foundation with the Technical University of Darmstadt. Professor Portharajanji was on the board of International Advisors of CPA USA, originally formed by HP, Microsoft, Intel, Sun, and Compaq. He is also a member of the Australian Research Council, ARC College of Expert, Engineering, Mathematics, and Informatics 2011, as well as part of the ARC College Selection Advisory Committee in 18 to 20. He has also acted as consultant and architect for several projects in computing, and telecom organization in the UK, US, and in Australia. He has been awarded the prestigious Mahatma Gandhi Provasi Samman Award, India, in 2017 for his outstanding contribution in the field of science, engineering, and technology related to diversity. Professor Portharajanji has published more than 450 papers in international journals and conferences, has co-authored and edited 10 books on information technology, security, networks, systems, and have held 3 patents. His research work over the years has contributed to the development of several successful secure commercial systems in the area of secure distributed applications, secure network systems, secure tools, secure mobile system, as well as cryptographic and smart card systems, and secure financial, telecom, and medical solutions. Professor Vatharajanji has supervised successfully over 39 PhD and 10 master's research students in UK and Australia. He was awarded Macquarie University Supervisor of the Year in 2003. He has delivered over 48 keynote speeches at academic international conferences and over 230 invited speeches in various academic and industrial symposiums and workshops. He has been a program committee member or chaired over 200 international conferences and acted as an editorial board member of several journals, including the prestigious SCM Transaction on Information System Security, IEEE Transaction on Dependable and Security System, IEEE Transaction in Information Forensic Security, IEEE Transactions in Cloud Computing, International Journal of Information Security, and many more. His current area of research interest include cloud computing security, Internet of Things security, big data, distributed application security, malware and security attacks, software security, SDN, wireless and mobile network security, machine learning, architecture, and application of security, and many more. Professor Authorization is a fellow of the British Computer Society, a fellow of the IEA, a fellow of the Institute of Mathematics and Applications, a fellow of the Australian Institute of Engineers, a fellow of the Australian Computer Society, and a fellow of the Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication. Thank you, sir, for being here. Now I invite sir, please deliver your
Hello, good evening, namaste. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. First of all, I know about such a long introduction. I'm really, I feel a bit embarrassed. And for the, you didn't have to read all that. 2 lines would have been sufficient. First, let me thank Professor Govil, Mahesh Chandra Govil, for his kind invitation. And I am honored, and it is a huge privilege for me to be able to have an opportunity here today to talk to, to say a few words about cybersecurity. I'm not entirely sure how long have I got. Should I do an impromptu? I also have a prepared presentation, a slide. I don't know which one is convenient. I can do a totally impromptu as well, if that is appropriate.
Go through presentation, no problem. We have time.
I'm sorry?
No time. You can take your time.
Okay. So in that case, I will go because if I do an impromptu one, it may be a little bit ad hoc and it may jump from one place to another place. So maybe I will do a little bit of a formal presentation and sort of have, but I do want to have questions, answers, if possible, have a discussion. That would be good. Let me give it a go for about 30, 35, 40 minutes, and then maybe we can have some session question answers. Yeah,
that would be good for the participants also.
Okay, thank you. Look, and first, distinguished guests, and again, it is an honor for me. And I always, I left India when I was born in Delhi, and I'm from Madras, South India, and Chennai nowadays. I left India. I left Delhi when I was 8 years old, and I went to Madras for 1 year. And then my parents were in Delhi, and he was working. My dad was working for central government meteorological department. So and then we left to Switzerland. So I left India pretty much when I was 9.5 years old. But it is really every time I get an opportunity to do any work with India, it is always a privilege and honor for me. I will be delighted to because one of my objectives is to help and work in India, because I worked with US government, UK government, European Union and Australian governments, and I do want to. It was an honor for me to when I got involved with the Prime Minister's cybersecurity task force from 2015 to 2019, Prime Minister Modi's. But any opportunity I get like this, I am really happy to participate and contribute anything that I can to help India. So, and cybersecurity, as Professor Govil said at the beginning, it is such an important topic, and especially for India. And I am Indian at heart and Indian at skin, Indian, total Indian. Although I've lived many years abroad, it is extremely. I feel I'm passionate about cybersecurity, especially passionate about cybersecurity for India. So in that context, let me just start off. In my talk, I just want to do basically two things. One thing is to sort of lay out a context, and Professor Bimal Roy did an amazing presentation. I highlighted the three issues: the data, the open data initiative, as well as the privacy and the secret sharing. Let me take the angle of systems and systems and systems. That is where one aspect I want to lay the technological context of cybersecurity, because cybersecurity touches every part of our life. It doesn't matter whether we cross the road, the transportation system is on the internet and that has got security issues. Whether we go to the as Professor Bimal Roy was talking about, whether you go withdraw money or put from something, take money from the locker, from the bank, you have security. Whether you go to the hospital for COVID treatment or any other treatment, there is security by electronic patient records. As there, any integrated healthcare system is a major issue. And if you look at critical infrastructures, whether it is the electricity grid or the telecommunication networks, and increasingly 5G, which is a fundamental network system for India, for all countries in the world. And I think in India, we have to invest in this, because that is going to sort of drive the future networking and digital infrastructures in the world. And it's very important. So every part of, it doesn't matter, every part of our society is touched by cybersecurity. So in this context, let me try to share, because there may be some slides which you may be worth seeing. So let me see if I can share my screen. Let me see. You must grant permission. Okay. Anyway. Type. No, that is a mistake we now should not make, because this is often a problem why things go wrong in the security space, because we assume people will have certain skills in using it, but young people believe, 15-year-olds, they turn off all the security settings, and then the data gets leaked. So it is important to bear the demography of the changes in demography. So not only technology has changed, not only new companies have come out, but the social changes have been dramatic. So if you look ahead for a minute and let's see what type of power we have in our hands, if you imagine everything that you have ever done since the day you're born and until the day you die, and if you want to capture all of that in black and white, it's less than a few percent of a petabyte. Which is very much in our reach. Currently, what we do, the commodity product storage-wise, we buy terabytes, right, for $100 US. So petabyte is not far away as a commodity product. Of course, we got petabyte machines in large companies and large government organizations. So everything you ever did and experienced can be captured in living color. It's only a few petabytes, right? It is all reachable. And similarly, the communication technology has advanced to the extent that we can download, transmit, significant, 10, here it says 10 HDTV movies or 40 regular length feature films, per second on a single fiber. So what this means, because of this computation and communication technologies, what this means is this has dramatic effect on the business model. What we once thought we cannot do, and now we are able to do this because of this availability of technology. So the way we should think about potential new business opportunities is, it opens up a lot of opportunities because of this, the growth in the computational and communication technologies. Now, the three major, what I think is really important in this space at the moment, if you look at the current state of the art, there are three areas that come to my mind. One is the cloud, and everybody talks about the cloud, but it's had been in existence almost 15 years, believe it or not. And the name cloud was coined probably about mid 2000s, but prior to that, we used to call it as distributed systems, grid systems, cluster computing, all sorts of variety of different names. So as my one of my mentors at the University of Cambridge used to tell me, right, technology sometimes often repeats itself in 7, 8, 9 years. Although, we started distributed computing, I don't know, early 80s, late 80s, the remote speech recall, the distributed computing environment, and then what distributed object systems, and then web services, then service-oriented architectures. Then we went into cloud. So, but there are changes in technology, but it is sort of incremental. It is not a revolutionary thing in some sense, although we tend to think it is revolutionary. We have some business applications that we want to reason about the data. So we collect the data from the devices, we put them on the cloud, and we do some analysis. And one type of analysis we do is data analytics, and that's where the machine learning and big data analysis comes in. So you can see, and there are lots of startups and new companies that formed in the same idea, collecting data from the IoT devices, collecting, for instance, another example is agriculture. So I might have different types of agriculture sensors on the farms. I collect data from them. I put them on the cloud. I do some analysis, and I can tell the farmer, oh yeah, this is the best time to do sow seeds of that type in this soil at this time of the year. We can give advice. That is the data analytics part, telling you the reasoning. So this is how the new services are being using these three different technologies. But as I said, security and privacy are fundamental in all of these things. We'll come to that in a minute. The other thing which is happening in the technological context is we are sharing data. And Professor Bimal Roy referred to it, and he was talking about a government initiative making data accessible to citizens. And this is a movement which has been happening in the Western world for almost last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And many including Australia, we have this open data initiative, and you want to put as much data as possible, which is not the privacy issues, but also national security issues come into play. But ensure, because you can use the data to write your own applications to make decisions. So one very common example, I'm sure it's there in India, the timetables of the train timetables, the bus timetables, airplane timetables, right? We put this data there so that when I can choose when to leave home, when should I go to the bus stop. I know the bus is going to come in 2 minutes time, or the train is going to come in 2 minutes time. I can plan my trip. So we share data, but we share data not only amongst ourselves, but also with devices. And increasingly what is happening is the devices themselves are sharing data. So imagine a situation where the fridge shares its data with the microwave. Fridge shares its data with the TV. The fridge might say, milk is missing. Best price milk or best whatever that you want, and then it tells your maps in the car, smart car, and then you get onto the car, and the car actually, and you go to the shop to buy whatever that is. So all sorts of things are possible when you have these devices communicating with each other. So that's what we do. But there are positive and negative things when we share the data. Sometimes when you share data, things can go wrong. So for instance, here in this slide, you've got it's a smart home, and it is telling the family it is not going to let you in because it has changed its mind. So the people are trying to get in, and then it says here, apparently the smart home decided it didn't want us anymore. Or the person sitting there on the sofa, he's saying, oh, it's your doctor. He just got an alert that you are having a second helping of the pie. So the doctor is saying, look, your health does not permit to have the second pie. So these types of technological, it can create unwanted or other effects, which may be good. I mean, in the case of health, that may be a good thing, right? But also the other technology which is happening increasingly in the world is drones. And so drones are beginning to be used to deliver deliver parcels. That is a common thing with the COVID times. This has been quite useful in certain cities and countries. But these drones can also invade your privacy. So, for instance, if you come to pick up your parcel outside your door, the drones can see, your roof needs repair. Suddenly, you get commercials in your laptop saying, "Oh, here is the people who can fix your roof," or even, "Oh, your dressing gown is a bit tacky, so you need to buy a new dressing gown." So all sorts of these privacy implications can come in. So the fundamental thing with data is good olden days, a long time ago, everything was private, and we kept it locked in our walls or in our stores, and then we needed to make a conscious decision to open it, because now we are going to let the data to be seen by people now. Whereas nowadays it's just the opposite. The default is open often because private information is everywhere, and so now we need to consciously we need to close the door. We need to close the data so that it does not get leaked into or seen by other people. By the way, in this context, let me say that in my view, probably the biggest challenge we have in the digital world is to do with data, is to do with the truth of the data. How do we identify what is the truth? Because in the digital world, we can make multiple truths. Everybody has got his or her own truth. So, in fact, that's been the problem in some countries with elections and the echo chambers and different people getting different facts, because we do not share the same facts anymore. When you do not share the same facts, the whole fabric of society falls down. So the fundamental challenge here is to how to ensure that the data that we are talking about there is truth associated with the data, and we all share the common truth. So what is public is also changed. Previously, when you did something in public, few people saw it and they forgot about it. Now, everybody sees it, because anybody with a mobile phone can take a picture and send it to all over the world. And pretty much, often, the digital data is not forgotten. It is very difficult to erase these things once it is out there. So what these two slides are trying to say is what is private and what is public. It's becoming a very clouded at the moment, confusing. So that's become the problem in our times at the moment. So this main thing when it comes to cybersecurity is, I feel that the age we are living in at the moment is we are seeing increasing what I call threat velocity. When I say threat velocity, there are actually 4 axes I tend to think of. One is the vulnerabilities, the bugs or the errors in the systems. When I say systems, it is both hardware and software systems, and increasingly more on the software, because there are quite a few software that we get to use. We have the operating system, we have the middleware, we have the applications, and whenever we go, we click on something, we download some software into our machines. So all this, the software has the potential for vulnerabilities. Why? Because in general, when you write software, it is difficult to write correct software, believe it or not. Take, for example, an operating system, standard operating system, which will be about 50, 60, 70 million lines of code, whether it is Windows or Linux or something like that. If you take more specialized systems such as ERP or logistic HR system, you're talking about 200, 300 million lines of code. Now, when you write 1 million lines of code, it is difficult to write 1 million lines of code without making any logical error. So typically, a rule of thumb is every 100,000 lines, you'll probably make about a half an error. So if you're writing about, million lines of code, you're probably making about 5 to 10 logical, significant errors. So if you're writing about 50 million lines of code, I'm talking about the top, really top professional software engineer in a top company, right, who are writing software. So therefore, what that means is we do this vulnerabilities creep in. We don't know how to write correct software, let alone secure software. And the other problem is systems of systems. Now, what do? Is we connect one system to another system, because, for instance, let's say when you're born, you're in the healthcare system. When you go to school, you're in the educational system. When you cross borders, you're in the immigration system. All these systems are talking to each other. So increasingly, when you have one system having a flaw, then this propagation of this error, the flaw, happens between systems of systems. So therefore, as we increase more and more of the software, the vulnerabilities increase, and therefore there is potential for attacks to happen. That is one axis. The other second axis is the bad guys. So there are evolving set of players. There is the players like the hackers. Then there is the corporate commercial espionage. Then there is the state actors. So there is a range of players with different resources and their effectiveness. And the third thing is the attacks happen very fast. We don't get that much time to fix it. So which we call zero-day attacks. That is, attacks happen. We don't have the time to fix the problem. There is no patch. We only find it is the unknown unknowns. So the attack happens, and then we say, okay, how are we going to fix it? So we are behind the attacker in terms of time scale. So, and then the other one is ease of people are able to make sophisticated attacks with little knowledge because there are sophisticated tools available in the internet. So all these four things for access makes life very difficult because it increases the threat velocity, increases the threats. So I'm going to skip the next few last slides because this basically goes through in detail a little bit more as to what are these, where you can see these attacks and threats. Now, skip all these things. Now, the problem with these increasing attacks is the notion of attribution. Attribution is actually who is attacking and why. In the case of, and this is very, very important from a cybersecurity perspective, because more one understands about the motivation, more one is able to determine where the attack is happening, how to counter it. And in the distributed system, like in the technological world that we are currently in, we are again faced with challenges which make it difficult to understand this attribution problem. Why? Because the first one is we have a lot of authentication technologies around, but still not all parts of the internet have these technologies. So there are certain parts of the internet is open and authenticated. So we are not able to trace back exactly where the attack comes from. So for instance, you think attack is coming from, let's say, a country B, but and you are a country A, and let's imagine a system in a country A is attacked from you think the attack is coming from a country B, but really it may not be coming from a country B. It may be coming from a country. I mean, B may get that. B may be the last point before A, but the attack may be coming from C to B to A. Maybe it's not coming from C. It is probably coming from D to C to B to A. So where it is coming from, to trace back where the attack, you need to have this path to follow. And if you have some parts of the internet which is unauthenticated, then you can't do this trace back. That is one foundation. And the fourth one is, even if you are able to get the data, interpreting the data as to what that it means and achieve a consensus is a bit difficult, is in its own right. That is a technical problem. So in that sense, what you often do is I think this attack is coming from here with a probability of this. And by the way, and I know this probability is greater than my threshold, and therefore I'm going to assume it is coming from that, and I'm going to defend by counteracting. So it becomes a very probabilistic in nature. So, but this attribution is a very, very important thing which makes life really difficult for this. So the model of the story is cybersecurity is a cat and mouse game. So, and in a cat and mouse game where the good guys, the defenders, have greater difficulties than the attackers, because the defender has got to defend all the points, whereas the attacker can attack the weakest point. Defender has to defend, or can only defend against known attacks. He only knows about these attacks, therefore he can only develop technical solutions or logical solutions, procedural solutions against those attacks. But whereas attacker will probe unknown vulnerabilities, and defenders, you got to do 24/7, 365 days a year, whereas attacker will choose the time his or her own, where he or she got that advantage. And generally, defender has got to play by the rules, whereas the attackers do not necessarily feel the deep and so. So in that sense, it is a game. So it's even more challenging for the attackers. Now, so the second point I want to in this context, there is cybersecurity. There is no such thing as absolute security. So what it is we do is we look at an environment, we look at a system and say, these are the types of threats that I can perceive at this point in time based on my knowledge of the system and the context and so on. And out of the set of threats, I can deal, let's say I have a system and I have an environment. I say there are 10 threats. I choose, I can live with, I choose that, 6 out of these 10 threats, I'm going to design some measures, whether it's technical measures, people measures, or procedural measures. And out of the 4, because I can live with them, because either they are too expensive to fix or too time consuming, or I might say this is okay. The probability of those things happening is very low, and therefore I can live with them. And that's how we do the cybersecurity solution. We effectively, what I was talking about is design a threat model, and we design a policy. The policy says what are the threats that we can deal with, and then we derive the technical solutions or whatever the solutions, and then we say, look, other threats we can live with. But this is so therefore, it is important. This is a very important thing. There is no such thing as absolute security or even absolute proof of some security things. In cryptography, you will be able to give you some proof of certain things, but that is not the whole system. When you have to look at, let's say I'm running an application over a cloud with, connecting wide area networks, different types of wireless, mobile, all these networks. I have lots of protocols and I have lots of different systems. Proving security is a tremendously difficult thing. So when you look at the world, so this is in my experience, I look at the world along the lines of mobile networks, fixed networks, distributed systems, small devices, mobile apps, distributed databases, all these plethora of technologies coming in, and then they are put into this spaghetti of heterogeneous ecological world. And then we have different types of users, ordinary users, my grandma, grandpa, to big corporations, to big governments, to small, medium businesses, SMEs, small, medium enterprises. So all of these, so just like the technology is not a monolith, the users is not a monolith, because the users will have different requirements. Healthcare will have a different requirement. Financial systems and the critical infrastructure will have slightly different requirements. So, and that to be able to understand all of this, we need to understand the technology involved. To understand the security, we need to understand the technology. That's a fundamental issue. So if I want to do security of an operating system, I have to know the operating system. This is for the students in the audience. If you want to write secure Linux, you have to know Linux. If you want to do secure IP, Internet Protocol, you need to know IP. If you want to do secure 5G, you need to know the 5G architecture. There is no two ways about this. And that is the beauty of, it has got both the positive and the negative things in the cybersecurity employment prospect, because as and when new technologies come, there will always be security issues. So you will not be running out of jobs for sure. because as the technology comes, provided you're able to adapt to learn new technology, you will be ahead. So you can develop new solutions. But you cannot stay still. You have to put effort in learning the technology. Often in this cybersecurity world, why things have gone wrong, why flaws have happened in this is because people who have designed secure system solutions have not understood the technology underneath. More you understand the technology underneath, better you'll be able to do the solution, security solution. But every technology, every technological area will have security and privacy challenges. Now, I'm going to skip that slide. But look, there are amazing number of technologies around. So we have lots and lots and lots of technologies. So, but why is still the problem? The problem is we have different technologies running on different platforms. We have numerous applications and services. We have different platforms provided by different vendors having different products. So it is a very, very complicated spaghetti beast of technologies around underneath. And in this domain, there's not an interoperability. There is one product does not understand the other product. One product says, I have this security functionality. How does it interact with another one? So this is why designing secure solutions is still an art. It is not a science. It is still, we need to engineer them. We need to develop them. We need to be careful about that. And this is why the chief security architect is a highly prized profession, because it requires the person to understand a variety of technologies and to learn the technologies as and when they come to develop an overall end-to-end solution. Because at the end of the day, users could be the banks, could be the users, or you and me can be the users. Banks, a large corporation, they are not necessarily interested in understanding the technology, but what they do want is they want to serve their customers the best financial services. But you, as a chief security architect or chief security officer or a CIO or a CTO, are responsible for ensuring that you develop the solution properly. And in order for you to do that, you have to understand multiple technologies, multiple requirements, and to do so. But that is where the challenge is. Now, I want to finish off this section a little bit with some principles. Actually, it's coincidental that Professor Birma Roy talked about data and security and privacy. Like, I think there is some, even amongst the professionals we do, and it's very important, this is for students, people tend to confuse certain things. There is this security, there is this privacy, there is this anonymity. Security is when we say security, it is often the owner of information has control. Security is not privacy. So, for instance, I'll give you an example. For instance, if you go to a hospital and you go there, you present yourself and you get admitted, and they take your data details and they do some diagnostic procedures, they have some results, and they store that information in their servers and their information system. The data that they have stored about you in their system is owned by them because they own their systems. So they are responsible for ensuring the security of the information that they own, right? So that is security. However, privacy is about the subject of the information has control, and privacy requires security. Privacy is about, the data is about me, but I don't have any control. In the case of a privacy system, the subject, that is me, has to have the control, and privacy requires security. Anonymity has no subject. It requires security and guarantees privacy, but it is neither. So we develop all sorts of schemes, models, architecture, secure system, privacy system, anonymous systems, and so on and so forth. Say, for instance, when I go and buy a pizza over the internet, and I pay $10 for it. So the pizza provider only needs to have the $10. He or she doesn't need to know that Vijay is buying the pizza. He needs to have the $10, right? That is anonymous system. So we do want in the internet, and internet does provide you certain cases of anonymous system. But internet by default has some way to trace. I was talking about the initial traceability, but it has these facilities to trace. But so you can have a traceable system. It is non-anonymous, and it has an anonymous system. So the voting system that Professor Birma Roy was talking about earlier, it requires it to be anonymous, because I do not want my vote to be known. Vijay voted for John or for X, should not be known, but it should be integrity and protected. The vote is correctly counted on all such stuff, but it should not know that who voted for who, right? There must be it should remain anonymous. So all these systems, so often in the even in some literature, in the popular literature, in the media, in the newspaper articles, they often confuse the word security and privacy. But see, privacy is often only to do when the subject has the control. The other concept, which is very, very important in the area of security, is the notion of trust. And in fact, I think trust is the foundation of security. And I said usually in exam questions, typically sometimes to my master's level, can you design a secure system if you do not have trust? Answer is no. You're not able to design a secure system if you don't have some trusted component. So what is trust? And in the case of what is trust is really, we technologists have come late to the party here, because trust is well studied and better understood by philosophers, by sociologists, by even psychologists, much more than technologists. But it's security, trust is a foundation. At least it has got, in my view, 4 components. One is the competency, the other one is the honesty, the other one is reliability, and then the availability. So I trust my doctor because he or she is competent in medicine. Okay, I trust my doctor, but just because he or she is competent in medicine and health procedures, that is not sufficient if the doctor is dishonest. So I want my doctor to be competent, but also I want him or her to be honest. Then only I will know the true condition of my health. At the same time, I want my doctor to be reliable. What is reliable in the systems world, in the technological world, is I present a query, I ask a question, and I give the context. If the context and the question is the same, or roughly the question is the same and the context is very similar, you want the answer to be roughly the same. If the system gives different answers, depending upon, even though the context is the same and the question is the same, then we tend to question its reliability. So the fourth thing is, it is important that the doctor is available. If I have an accident on a roadside somewhere, and the emergency doctor who comes to look after me, he needs to get hold of my personal physician or my data in the system. If the health data is not available for the next 5 minutes, there is no, for the roadside accident, that made, the whole, it is of no use. So the availability of the doctor, availability of the system is critically important. So when we say in the secure system world, we have a trusted authority, a trusted system, we effectively mean it is competent, it is correct, it is able to do the functionality that it is required to do. It is honest, that means it is not being malicious, it is telling me so-called truthful answers. And it is reliable, it tells me roughly the same answer for the context and the query that I give, the same query and the same context. And it is available whenever a user or some entity needs it. Then only we tend to think of that. But trust is a foundational thing, and that's a big topic in the security. So, and in fact, trust is a major issue now in the web, in the world of internet and the World Wide Web and all that, because this is the fundamental problem as to what is the truth. Because that problem arises because we are confusing. There is a confusion between authorship and audience. I am the author. I write stuff in the web. I write stuff in the social media, but I'm also the audience. I write and I'm also the audience. And I can create anything that I like, and therefore it leads to this multiple truth. Anyway, so that sort of gives a high-level picture. I don't know, I can now, how much time I got, I can just mention about 2 or 3 major challenges in cybersecurity research. Down the level. Please let me know how much time have I got. How much time have I got?
So you can continue, sir. We have a time.
Okay. Okay. How much roughly? Can you tell me how much time have I got so that I can?
15 to 20 minutes, sir. 15 to 20 minutes.
So let me finish. Okay. Then what I'll do, I'll take 5 minutes and then I want to stop because I want to take some questions. So I will show a couple of slides as to what did I do? Are you seeing again or? Okay. Yeah. Right. So let me. Yeah. Okay. So. These are the bunch of areas that we work in, and these are my current interests. Let me tell you some of the problems, the challenges in some of these areas at the moment. So the first one, okay, let me take the first, the cloud world. One of the big problems in the cloud with respect to data is we are storing data in the cloud. And when you look at the cloud, there is at least 3 types of entities we have. We have people, the cloud providers, which are, let's say, we have currently Amazon, AWS cloud, or the Azure cloud. So there are these cloud providers. They provide the infrastructure. And then with respect to cloud data, then there is the owners of data. So for instance, a financial bank, let's say, I don't know, ICICI Bank stores its data about its customers in the cloud, which is, say, run by Amazon. And then we have the customers of the ICICI Bank, and the data is about them. So as well as there are customers, or there are other users. So there are users, there are customers, and then there is the ICICI Bank, which stores the data about their customers and talks about its services. And they are all stored in some cloud provider. So the fundamental, if I look at the trust question here, so let's imagine the first question is, does the ICICI Bank trust the cloud provider Amazon to be able to store the data of its customers in a secure way? What type of guarantees that Amazon can give it to ICICI Bank? That's one question. From a customer point of view, he or she will say, look, my data is being stored by ICICI Bank in the cloud, and I do not want my data, this is the privacy bit. If I'm saying, if I have control over my data, I don't want my data to be seen by employees of the Amazon. So I need to tell ICICI Bank that when you're storing my data, I do not want that data to be seen by the cloud provider. So that is the privacy bit from a customer perspective. So you can see many such requirements coming in. So we have been one area where we have been doing is the ability of data owner, in this case, let's say the ICICI Bank, to store data onto the cloud provider in such a way that the cloud provider will not be able to see the data or view the data or to modify the data except according to the policies or according to what ICICI Bank has defined. In other words, the data owner of the data can specify what are the things he allows the cloud provider to do, and only those things are able to be done by the cloud provider. So I can take it one level of indirection. I can say the customer of ICICI Bank can specify, say, what are the things that ICICI Bank can do on his or her data, but stored in the cloud provider, and so that the data owner can actually restrict what both the ICICI Bank can do as well as what the cloud provider can do. This becomes even more acute or problem very pronounced in the case of healthcare data. And I've been working with the Australian government because one of the things in many countries, by the way, the healthcare is sort of I've been working on this problem for over 25 years. Started mid-90s in the US, but essentially we nowadays have the health records which are being stored in the cloud. And in Australia as well, we do this, and now it has become mandatory. since last year. That means mandatory means every citizen of Australia's medical record is stored in the cloud. So what we have done is to ensure that not only the data is protected, secure, but also it is private in the sense the patient or the user has control over what the cloud provider can do, what the government agency can do on my data. So that is one area. The Internet of Things, let me just move down the thing. The next year, Internet of Things is a huge, it has got all sorts of problems. And let me say, one of the biggest problems we have in the Internet of Things is that most of the devices that we are now connecting to the Internet probably do not have any security functionality. And but actually it's even more complicated than that. Let's imagine I buy a microwave, Samsung microwave. And what happens is often when we buy consumer products, we don't even register them, right? Often we don't. I mean, we just buy them and we use them and we hardly register these things because sometimes we forget, sometimes we don't do it. So now, what is the problem here? The problem is as soon as I connect, but I do connect them to internet, but I don't register them, right? So as soon as I connect these devices to the internet, first of all, because these devices, consumer devices, do not have any security functionality, that means it is easy to be attacked. So a common example, I mean, what happened 2 years ago, 2017 rather, is the well-known Mirai attack, which is whereby the cameras and routers, and often, the wireless routers or base stations you have, or the cameras, internet cameras, they have, when they have, we buy these machines and then they often have a default password, and typically the default admin password is admin. So, and people don't change it. And what that meant is because there's hardly any security functionality, and even the security functionality they have is so poor, the malicious code, malicious software made those devices to be zombies, or they compromised those devices, and then they collected millions of these devices, and then these millions of these devices went and attacked a victim meaning a server or a service. And that's one of the problems. So the fundamental problem when you connect these devices which do not have security functionality or very limited functionality, or even the functionality is very weak, what happens is they are prone to attacks, and they are not themselves prone to attacks, but they can be harnessed to attack, bring together to attack somebody else, to another, as a group of them. So it increases the attack surface. That's one problem. And how do we solve this? Well, in the area of software world, in our PCs, laptops, and tablets, or our mobile phones, what we do is we do patching, right? In the software world, this is in the IoT world. This is not that easy, because the one thing why I said it's not one thing I said at the beginning. I said, look, sometimes people do not register. So in order for me to do the patching, I need to know this device. The manufacturer, Samsung, needs to know that microwave exists, right? So in the internet. So unless the consumer registers, the Samsung, even if it wanted to patch, it cannot patch because it doesn't know. That's one problem. The second problem is patching in IoT devices. When you got, the prediction, the estimate is, it's about 20 billion in about 2025. So it's lots of devices compared to we are 7 billion in the population as a human population. Whereas if you think of 20 billion devices, patching becomes very, very, it's very infeasible in some sense. So that is another problem. So the attack surface increases. How do you solve the problem? So this is a very, very current research problem. Is one of our research interests. We are working on this part. The other bit is, with the IoT devices is not just, the patching, but also we need to use these access IoT devices. Let's imagine I have a car and it's a smart car, and I want to go, and my parking space has got a sensor in it. So what that means is only when my car comes in, the parking space allows it. Otherwise, it doesn't allow it, right? It just blocks it. It doesn't allow my car to park. So this is so here's an example of an IoT device, the sensor. which is allowing another sensor, which is in the car, which is my car, to park on this particular location. So this is the problem of access control. But in this case, again, the scale, it's millions of devices, large number of devices. So in this case, there are two devices here. One is a sensor on the parking spot, which is very tiny, and the computational resource is very limited, and the other one is the car. So the access control problem here is we should allow that car to park there, the sensor. So the computation, the access control computation that needs to be done by the sensor should be so lightweight and so simple, but it should got to be effective. So hence the problem, and the second problem in this IoT world is how can you design efficient access control models and authentication models which are very lightweight, but the scale is billions, and also it's heterogeneous devices. That's another challenge we have. And the third challenge is the other example that I gave with respect to, say, solar panels or the meters. We are reading data from the devices and to do some reasoning on the cloud, some data analytics. So when I read data from an IoT device, I need to say something about whether I trust the data, whether I trust the device, right? So perhaps both. So trusting the data, I can do some standard, cryptographic and those types of security solutions. But trusting the device is another issue. It's not necessarily. When I say I trust the device, that means the device, the state of the device is not compromised. The firmware in the device is not no malicious thing is in it, and the device is behaving properly. The device is behaving properly. I need to check it over a period of time. So the trust model associated with IoT devices, the attack surface, as well as the access, those are three big challenges in the IoT world. I do want to say something a little bit about this 5G security, the next one, because 5G is probably is the next piece of digital infrastructure, which is going to be critical because it brings in not only high speed, the reliability and the bandwidth, but also it is going to allow IoT devices to be connected. So it is part of the critical infrastructure. One of the things that we have recently been involved in Australia here is with the Prime Minister's, the Department of Home Affairs, is they've introduced the cybersecurity strategy for 2020. And so digital infrastructure, cloud data centers, 5G is treated as a sensitive critical infrastructure. And there's been a huge debate in the last 3 or 4 years with respect to particular companies in China, such as Huawei, whether they should be allowed to participate in the provision of 5G equipment across, in UK, US, Australia, and other countries. And I know in India we also had certain reservations about the Chinese apps, but also I think 5G is a very sensitive, very critical infrastructure, which is going to control, healthcare, transportation, all sorts of vertical segments. So, therefore, the need for trusted, secure infrastructure is critical for the economy, but also for national security. And 5G. The two part for us, for our research, what we do here, the two bits which are interesting to us is one is the dominant factor in 5G is what is called the network softwarization. So what it introduces is virtualization and software-based services into the 5G network. So essentially, what we have is the 5G will allow software components which provide the service, telecommunication service or any other end-to-end service, to be run on multiple hardware infrastructure providers underneath, but using many virtual channels. So in some sense, the security and trust challenges introduced here arise from the virtualization layer and network function virtualization. So virtualization layer means that we have typically like hypervisors and virtual machines running on top of the hardware. But then the network function virtualization means we are able to move the function, network function, dynamically over the digital infrastructure where it is needed. So for instance, I need this function today in this location, in this mobile node, or in this edge computing device. I can move that function dynamically to that device when it is needed. So those two areas, the virtualization and the network function, dynamic movement of network functions, pose tremendous security challenges in the world in this 5G space. And in this context, software-defined network, this is where the software is the key for managing commodity network switches and routers. This is where the SDN area comes into the 5G. So 5G leverages software-defined networks and network function virtualization to provide network services, and therefore security. That's one dominant factor in security. The other dominant factor, I said, is the other areas which is of interest to us. It brings in the IoT into the space. I want to say a little bit about this other area, which is data-centric security, and that's a fascinating area because I'd like to start off by just giving a small example. Let's imagine you're sitting at the internet, your computer at the moment, and if you were to type, let's say, who has my credit card number? Will this computer answer? Will the internet answer? At the moment, if you type a query, whether you're able to, whether we can or not, not possible. Well, let's say who has my credit card number in the world? I've given credit card numbers to lots of places, lots of providers. Now, if you want to query the internet system, say, and I ask the question, who has it? Will the internet be able to answer? And the answer is no. But every talk you go to in major conferences and exhibitions, the CIOs and the CTOs will come and say, data is the new currency in the world. True. Data is the central, because data is where we do the reasoning and data is where the value is, right? But the point is, the infrastructure is not geared to answer questions based on data. We still think about, internet is still defined on the basis of the data stored in containers, servers, routers, and we talk about IP addresses, URL, all sorts of things, but they are all identifiers to containers, not the data. So the whole area of data-centric security is how can we actually protect the data, because that's where the value is as the data moves along. So for instance, if I'm watching the Netflix movie, right, and I'm watching on my TV, and I want to be able to say that for the data, the movie, the particular movie, and that is a content system, and that the dollar, the subscription, actually, but that's a subscription usually rather than per movie base. But imagine if it is per movie base, then I want to make sure that if I had paid for that movie, I should be able to see that movie. So in other words, in order to establish a system, and that is what the future of the internet is going to be in the next decade or so, if data is the real currency, then what we need is we need to associate with the data, with the content, some policy, and in this case, okay, I want to watch this horror movie X, and then have I paid for that movie X? So if the X is being downloaded onto my PC, now there must be a policy which says, hey, VJ has paid, the $10 for this movie X, and therefore X is going in. But not as a traditional access control system in the server, but the policy has got to move with the data. So that another example may be easier to understand is the good old digital rights management. So let's imagine I send you a picture of my daughter to you, and I say, look, you can have a look at my picture of my daughter, but you should not forward it to anybody else. So what that means is I have this picture, and in some sense, I have a policy associated with that image because it's only with that image. And that policy is you cannot forward it to anybody else, or you can only send it to Jane or Satya, whatever it is. That means that the policy moves with the data. So this is a fundamental concept, and we need to make sure that coupling exists and it is protected as the data moves over the internet across multiple jurisdictions. The problems, I mean, if we don't have such a real system in the practical system at the moment, but if we had such a system, then things like Cambridge Analytica, we had the problem in the Facebook a few years ago. Those types of problems we can solve these types of things with a slightly different solution. So the fundamental issues are policy coupled with data, and the notion of trust comes in here, because you should not be able to decouple the policy with the data, because when the picture comes to your machine, let's say you were to say, hang on, I'm going to cut this policy off. I can forward this picture to anybody I like, but because I can remove this policy, then the whole system breaks down. So we need a trusted environment, we need the strong coupling, and it needs to move across multiple jurisdictions. So the moral of the story is, if the value of our system is in the data, which it is, then we need to have the policies to protect the data, intricately link it to the data, not to the container. And we need to ensure that this protection or this coupling remains strong and secure and trusted as the data moves over the internet from one node to another node, across jurisdiction, meaning from one organization to another organization, or even one country to another country. And there are some huge challenges here in data, both security, privacy, and trust. Let me then finally just, I want to touch on a couple of other more and then finish off. And the last one, let me just do one and then finish off, because I want to stop for a question. And the last one I want to say is machine learning. And yes, so here, look, there are machine learning now for the last decade now. It's been used everywhere to reason about different things. And particularly in the case of security, when we talk about machine learning security, there are two problems. So one is classification, and the other one is clustering. But let me just without going too much detail, I just want to highlight one issue here, which is close to my heart at the moment, which is, as a security person, one way to apply machine learning is, how can I apply machine learning to reason, which is what we do, whether it's healthcare or financial system. I get the data and I apply some algorithm to run reason about it. But really, as a security person, what I want to do is, how can I attack the machine learning algorithm itself? If the machine learning algorithm is telling me, this is a cat, this is a dog, this is the right thing to do for this financial application, or this is the financial decision, this is the thing you should invest in. That's what the machine learning algorithm is telling a customer. The thing as a security person, what you want to do is, how can you attack the machine learning algorithm itself so that it gives you the wrong answer? And this is the area of adversarial machine learning. So how do you cheat the machine learning algorithm itself so that the algorithm tells you the wrong answer? So, and this is, at this point in time, most neural network-based algorithms, deep learning algorithms, are susceptible to this type of adversarial machine learning. And so there are two fundamental challenges here. One is what is the notion of explainable machine learning algorithm, which is when the algorithm tells you an answer, we do not know how it arrives at the answer. So we don't know the reasoning the algorithm does, because they are fairly complex. Because we do not often know the reasoning or how it arrives, we are able to cheat by attacking the algorithm, and therefore the problem becomes complicated and aggravated. So that's the area which is of interest. And at this stage, as I said, this is really a hot topic. And in this sense, because we are beginning to use machine learning algorithms in lots of applications, but since the cheating can be done, will be done, and we do not exactly know how to protect against this cheating at this point in time, this is a huge concern when machine learning algorithms are being used for sensitive applications, especially in safety critical systems and critical infrastructures, or even in healthcare. So, but where there is a malicious or a deliberate attempt to cheat, so to cheat by cheat, it is a deliberate attempt to attack the machine learning algorithm itself so that wrong answers are given. They're all probabilistic, but basically, the answer is made to look even more wrong, and that is where the area which is famous. Let me finish here because I think I can keep on talking. That's probably not a good idea. I do want to have the opportunity for some questions and take a discussion. Anything? Yeah. Let me stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have any questions, you can write down to the chat box.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yeah, hi, sir. I have a question. My name is Subbu.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Hello.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Ask your question. I believe there's some network issue. Other participants, if you have any question, kindly write the questions in the chat box. Okay. So from the conference room, my colleague, Dr. Kuntu, wants to ask one question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I want to know, sir, what is the role of selection proper browser for our surfing? Because in some incognito mode, there might be some privacy or security issues, and even for some browsers like Onion and other things, there could be some security or privacy issues could be there. So, what is the role of, or what is the significance of choosing proper browser?
Sorry, can somebody repeat the question? I can't hear the question properly. It just got having. So what can you
am I
say
audible?
the question again?
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, now I can, but I keep missing some words. Please, can you give it a go again, please, so that I can try to listen to the whole question?
Okay, sir. My question is, what is the significance of choosing proper browser when we are doing internet surfing? Like even in Google, if we do incognito mode, or for some other browsers like Onion and others, there could be some privacy or security issues. So,
yes,
what is your suggestion or opinion in this regard?
Okay. So let me understand let me just play back play back your question so that I understand. So I think there are two aspects to your question. One is you're talking about different type of browsers, and the second you're talking about choosing the incognito mode or the private mode. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So look, choice between browsers, probably I don't want to sort of get into that argument of which browser is more secure or not. But let me say, because the common browsers are Mozilla, the Chrome, and the Edge. Those are the three common, and then in the case of Apple, the Safari, right? I'm not familiar with all of them, but I'm reasonably familiar with one or two other very key technical levels. But I think it is not every company does its best. Look, I've had some experience with the Microsoft one, obviously, but every company does its best to ensure the quality of the browser. But let me not take that, but let me take the easier, because that's, I don't think it's worthwhile for me to compare product analysis between the four browsers. But I think the other question is probably much more relevant. The incognito mode or private mode, what it does is, it is when you're in the when you're not in a private mode, what it is happening is when you go to a browser, when you use the browser to go to a website, what is happening is at the background, your information is passed to many advertisers or many other third parties. You can see that if you use a browser called Brave, or even there are some plugins I can send you on Mozilla, it tells you if you use the browser normally, what are all the other third parties? If you go to a website, let's say, I don't know, I go to Ford.com, but the Ford.com displays, let's say, a car or some other image. So behind that car, there are all sorts of other websites and other URLs that your ID or your cookie is being passed along to. Whereas in the case of private mode or the incognito mode, that is not being done. Okay, that's the difference between the. So it is your information is not passed on to third. Even take a newspaper. If you go to, I don't know, Hindu or Times of India, when you look at that web page using a normal browser, your information will be passed on to because you see, if you look at the Times of India page, there are bits and pieces of advertisers in that web page, and a car, you see a Times of India front page, but let's imagine a car is being advertised there, then the car manufacturer will get your details, or will you get your request, some detail of your request when your URL, your IP request, that will be sent to them. Whereas in the incognito mode or the private mode, they will not receive that. But there is a second bit to that. If the car manufacturer said, let's say you're looking at the Times of India web page, but if the car manufacturer says that anybody who looks at that Times of India, I need to know, then in that case, because you're looking at the incognito mode or the private mode, then you may not see some images correctly. It may not even be shown. So that is the consequence of that. But essentially, the answer to your second part is incognito mode or private mode prevents certain information from your request being passed on to third parties or other providers which are linked to that web page, which would be passed on by default if you were not in the private or the incognito mode. With respect to which browser is more effective, or the most secure, look, every company does so okay, probably the one comment I can make here is probably related to privacy rather than security. So if you're using let's say Google Chrome, so the Google Chrome has got this Google has got this what is called their ecosystem, their chain of products. So they take information, when you do the search, when you use many of the Google products, they are being interconnected. So Google Chrome fits into that scheme, whereas Mozilla doesn't have that ecosystem of products. In some sense, therefore, what I'm sort of drawing, the principle is, Mozilla can be a little bit, in terms of privacy, more private compared to Google Chrome, because Google Chrome connects information from different Google products they will say for convenience, but of course your information is being shared between different Google products. If you're using any other Google, Google Docs, YouTube, also they're being shared between that, and Google Chrome, therefore the Google Chrome as a browser enables that to happen. Whereas Mozilla has the ability, that doesn't do that by default, so that there is a differentiator. In terms of security, most these browsers, they are fairly well advanced, and as I said initially at the beginning, the vulnerabilities, browsers is one of the products where vulnerabilities happen all the time, and so the key thing is they keep patching it. So I probably will not be able to comment on in terms of the security between the four products in any meaningful manner, because they keep changing, they keep modifying it by patches. Whereas I think the privacy is a bit more clear cut. I can say something about these two, the Chrome and that, and incognito is very clear. The privacy mode is, private mode is very clear. Yeah. I don't know whether that answers.
Thank you, sir. Now,
So I have a question. Hello, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a query rather. Hello. First of all, thank you for this wonderful talk. And I just want to know that, sir, since data privacy is going to be very important for the companies nowadays, because obviously we should have access control and the consent of the users over the services what the companies are being provided. But sir,
Yes.
whether the anonymity that includes the untraceability and unlinkability, both,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
that could be incorporated if we use homomorphic encryption to our mechanisms. I just want
Yeah.
to know that.
Okay, so definitely anonymity, both unlinkability and traceability are properties of anonymity. Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Now, the homomorphic encryption, what it is, yes, you can use that, but really the purpose of homomorphic encryption is ability to do arbitrary operations on encrypted data, right? That is the purpose of the homomorphic encryption.
Yes,
So
sir.
the answer is yes, I can use homomorphic encryption schemes to achieve anonymity and unlinkability and untraceability properties. But the property of homomorphic is that function, that arbitrary computations over encrypted data, and I can use that to develop anonymous schemes. Absolutely right. Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Now we are reaching. There's another speaker who is waiting. So thank you so much for the interaction, and we will be sharing the PPT as requested by the participants with everybody.
Sir, I have a
Thank you.
question.
Look,
Yes, sir.
okay, sure.
One question, sir.
Share the PPT with the participants, sir, with your permission.
Please, and also look, the PPT has much more information about some of the research projects that I sort of hand waved with that. So probably the participants may, and there's also my email address. They can write to me as well if there is any query on that and any interest. I would love to see any. Work with if there are some interest in any. Homomorphic area, for instance, is another area of interest of mine. So if there are aspects which you see interesting in that thing, I would love to work with you. Thank you. Sorry, short question you have.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I have a small question. Yeah.
Okay.
So as you said, the advent of the machine learning, the artificial intelligence, with the kind of growing technology.
Hold on, dear participant, kindly hold on.
Yeah.
Actor wants to interact with the expert. Kindly hold on.
The experts can write the questions in mail. We'll forward to professor and we'll give you the answer because we don't have time now.
Sure.
Okay. Sure.
Okay.
That's fine. Right, sir. It was an awesome presentation. Thank you,
And
sir.
whenever the situation is okay, we invite you to Sikkim. Have you been to Sikkim?
No, I have never been to Sikkim. I would love to. And can I just have one line, please? I personally want to thank Professor Govil because I unfortunately I think he wrote to me a couple of times. Sorry for the delay in responding. It's been an honor, and I really thank you for this opportunity, and I hope this was of some use, and I hope we can continue the conversation with your faculty and your staff as students. If appropriate in any of these areas. Thank you very much, sir, for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We'll stop.
So we'll straight away, thank you, sir. We'll straight away move to the next session, and I would request Dr. Sangram Ray, the coordinator, to kindly, so kindly introduce the next speaker to the participants.
Hello, Dr. Odunaboda. Hello. Hello. Am I audible, Dr. Odunaboda?
Yes, hello. I can hear. Yes.
Please show your video.
Thank you.
Show your video, please.
Okay. Yes. Can you see me?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hello.
We introduce
Hi.
Dr. Roy to for participants. Uh, Dr. Roy did his PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Dhanbad, and then he continued his research in the development of the machine learning and statistical methods for mitigating cyber attacks, big data, and artificial intelligence in the Department of Computer Science at the University of Memphis, USA, as a postdoctoral research fellow until 2016. Then he joined National University of Singapore as a research fellow in the Department of Industrial and System Engineering in 2016. And later, he joined the Singapore University of Technology and Design in 2017 as a postdoctoral fellow in computational statistics for mitigating cyber issues in the corporate lab. In later, he joined as a research faculty of computer and information science at the University Technology Petronas, Malaysia. Now he is working as a starship senior scientist at the School of Information Technology at Petronas University. Dr. Roy had several publications in reputed journals, including IEEE, Elsewhere, Springer, Taylor and Francis, and Wiley. He has also co-authored a book entitled Advances in User Authentication, published by Springer USA in 2017. He has 4 US patents, one of which is recently licensed by Silicon Valley security startup called I2 Chain. He also filed another US patent in 2020 jointly with the University of Memphis, USA. Presently, he is authoring a book entitled Emerging Trends Techniques in Reliability Engineering and Security, which will be published by Springer Nature, Switzerland. His area of interest include cybersecurity, machine learning, statistical modeling, and reliability. Thank you, Dr. Roy, for being here and spending your valuable time. Now, I invite you to deliver your perspective.
Thank you for
Here
thank
is
you for being so kind to thank you. Thank you for being so kind to ask me to share or put forward some of my thoughts. Uh, uh, I am trying to share my screen. Is it visible?
no,
Is it visible? If any feedback? Not visible. So how to do that? If you kindly guide me.
Sir, can you now present? Uh, can you now present, sir?
Yes.
On the bottom right side, there is
Okay,
a
present now.
present now option.
Okay, okay. I understood.
Present now, huh?
I think.
yes.
Okay. Is it visible now? Is it visible?
You know?
No, sir, not
Now,
yet.
now.
Yes, now it is.
Oh,
Yes, sir,
okay.
it's visible.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you for being so kind to ask me to put forward to some of my thoughts in the August gathering. So, and I hope that everybody is doing well in the COVID time, in the recent COVID situation. So, and I hope the world will be a better place in a few days after the launching of the vaccine. I hope so. So let us start with my topic, that is called the evading active authentication using adversarial techniques. Just a second, let me cut off my video so that my network will be undisturbed. So yes, let us start with the presentation. So this is the topic is the evading active authentication using adversarial technique. So, I mean, here, first of all, I mean, as Dr. Rai already mentioned that I am working on the field of authentication since last couple of years, and active authentication, evading of the active authentication is one of my areas of interest till date. So, I mean, for that, let us give a brief outline of the. So, in this presentation, I will be presenting one of the cases, and briefly I will present one of the cases of such type of possibilities where the active authentication systems are not doing well. So and mostly that will be on, I mean, using the machine learning, adversarial machine learning models, which are pretty popular now. There are several, such as GANs, DC GANs. There are several variants of the GANs. Some have some I mean, stable learning procedures, some do not have. That will be their problem. So our goal is not to come up with or not to rectify the existing techniques problems. That means existing problems of the machine learning approaches. Mostly our goal is to evade the active authentication or the defeat the active authentication with the adversarial techniques. Now we all know that, I mean, authentication is a pretty old, I mean, old days concept. Authentication, since the very beginning of the computer science, even before the computer science, we always need something to, I mean, show that yes, I am the reliable guy, or I am the valuable, or I am the legitimate user, legit user. Even before the invention of the computer science, I mean, this is a very ancient technique to understand that this guy is trusted and this guy is with us or something. Now, so the outline of this talk would be in this way, that I will discuss about the authentication details. I mean, expect that most of us have the a detailed idea about the authentication, and then different authentication factors. That our problem starts with the authentication factors, and then the multi-factor authentication, which is pretty well known, because in most of the banking case, I mean, sites, we used to use the 2FA. And then I will talk about the active authentication. Active authentication means the continuous authentication. For example, if you use the password is not the continuous authentication. At the beginning of your opening the account, I mean, when you logged in, at that time only the authentication with the password comes. And throughout the session, as long as you are not again signing out and again signing in, the system won't ask you to give your password, to provide your password very frequently. So that's how the password, it is quite static. That means if you logged on to the system, maybe in the morning when you are in the office, when you came to the office, and throughout the day, if you are not doing the signing out, the session mostly be valid. So maybe in the I mean, in between, so when you just put the username or provide the username and the password, then some other guy may came and may use your account where the system has no idea about it. That means system simply don't know that, simply doesn't know that the other guy is not the right user. So therefore, we have to bring some intelligent quotient to the authentication part, so that the system will intelligently identify that yes, you are the right user, or the guy who's currently working with the system, he's some kind of legit one. Now, so after that, one of the active authentication techniques that I will be explaining very briefly, that will be the mouse dynamics. There are several other active authentication techniques. And lastly, I will show one example how to use the active authentication or the mouse dynamics. And I won't talk much on that particular topic, since we have already filed a couple of patents on that part. So but mostly I will do how to think for that. So let us start with the discussion. So I know that, I mean, we all know that what is authentication. It is a process of verifying the legitimacy of someone's claim to be himself or herself or itself. Maybe one process, maybe you are not directly interacting with the server side, So you are interacting with a software, and that software will talk to the server on behalf of you. So therefore, that software has to be legit one, has to be legit one. So for that, we use the term called itself. Now, so once the authentication process is completed, so the client, authentication means, that means now you are the legit user. Now the question is, legit user of what? That means, are you the are you the legitimate guy to use all the resources? So that part is called the authorization. So that is the next part. So we differentiate the authorization and authentication in such a way, that the former, that the authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a registered client before granting access to the requested resources, and later validates the authenticated client is granted with the requested resource. So that means the authentication comes before the authorization. So authorization means, that means make sure that you are now, being the legit user, you are now, you have now gotten the access of the legit, your areas of interest, whatever you want, right? And that should be legit one, right? So now, how to do the authentication? So we can think of that, the older days technique called the username and password. Nowadays there are several other techniques. So based on that, we have come up with a couple of factors that is called the authentication factor. So an authentication factor is a piece of information required to verify the identity of the client striving to obtain the access, maybe for a network resource, maybe for some other resources. Now there are a couple of types of authentication factor. For example, the knowledge factor. That means what you know. That means that could be your password, that could be your PIN, that could be your passphrase. Then possession factor, then what you have. That means for getting a PIN, we must have to have one mobile phone or other device or other hardware or other token, such as this guy, RSA token. Now it is quite popular with the banking website, banking site. That means if you log on to the banking website, then you have to press one key in this particular token, and you will get a couple of lengthy digits, and that digit you have to include in your online account to get access to the bank. That means that is a possession factor. That means something you have to possess. Then inheritance factor, then location factor, then the time factor. We can discuss one by one. That means knowledge factor, and what you know. That means your personal identification number. Personal identification number is quite different of the OTP, right? So we should not, we must differentiate OTP from the personal identification number, where the OTP must come under what you have. That means you will get an OTP if you have a mobile phone or the registered SIM or the device or the token or whatever. That depends on the website that you are working with. Now, password pins are very much vulnerable to the brute forcing attack and the dictionary attack. Now, the problem with the password, all the password engineers today, they used to, they have their guideline to create a password. Now, think about that. There is another guideline where they used to say that you should not choose your password repeatedly. That means for website A, you are using a password. The password engineer used to suggest that you should not use it to website B or website C or website D or website E, and so on. Now today everything is online, and especially in the COVID time, we are all working from the home, and we have to log on to several websites to attend meetings, to attend several other formalities. Now, so in this case, how many passwords can a natural guy remember? That is a big question. Now think about that. If somebody says that I can remember a lot of passwords, but that is not the ideal case. He may be the outlier. That means it may be his capability. That means he can memorize so many things. However, I cannot. So many people cannot. So now we have to come up with something. So therefore, what we used to do now, that means we used to repeatedly use the password to same or to different website, maybe your banking website, maybe your other website, maybe. Now, once one password is hacked or user evade that, a user understood the password, then he can use this password to evade all of your account securities. Now that means write once, evade once and access everything. That is the thing. That is the problem with the password. Now same problem with the pins. Now we have to understand that today's the scenario is quite changed. Now at least or most of us can afford a fair GPU whose processing power is much higher than that of ordinary CPUs. So we must expect a huge amount of this type of attack, this type of brute forcing attack or the dictionary attacks on the passwords, uh, and that is really dangerous. So we have to be always cautious. So password engineers used to suggest the passphrase. That means you should use the passphrase. But passphrase is something like this: that I love ice cream. Now it is quite lengthy. So yeah, I understand that. Now the brute forcing guys, now the guys who are doing the brute forcing, it might not be cost effective for those guys. I understand. But think about that. The same problem persists. That means you have to remember thousands of passwords for thousands of accounts, and this is passphrase. It is much bigger than the passwords. How to remember? Again, if you keep the same passwords, same passphrase for for various accounts, so if one is hacked, then everything is done. So that is the problem with the passphrase. However, it makes the attacker's job quite computationally expensive. The passphrase makes the attacker job quite computationally expensive, but the question is how to remember. But still, we can say that with the help of today's modern GPUs and all, so this passphrase might also be broken badly. So again, vulnerable to the brute forcing, but not like passwords. Now, so let us, now let us explore the knowledge factor a bit. As I already as I already explained that there could be certain guidelines for selecting the password. I believe everybody knows. So therefore, these are the common practice to create a password. Now, the Linux engineer, they used to think in different ways. That means instead of simply providing a guideline, such type of guidelines, can we do something more to protect the password, to keep the password in the system, and that particular file is quite hidden from the attackers. However, those files are again, can be achieved. Those files can also be drained out. It's not a problem. We used to do the same in our research. However, that part is quite hidden. It is quite different. Now, so Linux, they used to do, a long back in the Unix days, this technique, the technique first one is the long back. It is almost around 1980s. So they used to use this /etc pass WD. Now this is word readable format. Word readable format doesn't. It is not word readable. Word readable doesn't mean that it is it is not encrypted. It is encrypted, but still everybody can see it. That means the location of this particular file is such that we can see that in the initial days. I'm not talking about the modern Linux or modern Unix versions. This is very much seen by any of the users of the system. That means, for example, in a particular server, there are thousands users. So all the user can see this word readable format. Maybe that word readable format of the password. Maybe that password is hashed, and that, but still you can see that password, and from the password you can come up with the original password through the brute forcing. Now the word readability, as I mentioned, that the local user, all the local users can view the password. That means each other's password they can view. But later, certainly that is a vulnerability. Now think about that. If among those 1,000 guys who had accounts in the in the server. So if among that 1000 guys, if one among them is the bad guy, so he can that means he can see all the 1000 passwords. So certainly that is not a good technique. Now what Linux did, now they come up with this shadows.util package. Quite recently they have come up with the shadows.util package, and in that case they made this /etc shadows quite quite private to the root. That means only the root user now can see the passwords, now can see the passwords and the encrypted passwords. Generally they used to put the encryption in this way. They used to put the encryption in this way. That means username, ID, then salt, then encrypted password. So username means the username, ID means the IDs are from this ID we can understand what type of hashing that password used. So that means it is quite vulnerable. Once again, the string is quite vulnerable. From this ID we understand that what type of hashing technique or the hashing mechanism they have implemented. For example, if this guy is 1, then it will be MD5. If this guy is 2, then it will be blowfish and so on. And lastly, this is the salt. The salt actually they used to now think about that. From this ID we decide the hashing technique, hashing mechanism they have chosen for encrypting the password. Now, for example, let us see this particular string. So John is the username. John is the username. And from this, I will talk about the vulnerability. How the Unix arrangement is also not secure, and what to do to secure the Unix arrangement. So this is the John. So I understand that it is the username. That means we understand it is the username. Then it will be the ID. So the ID is 6. So that means it is the SHA512. Next, this big string is the salt plus password. Now from this salt plus password, that means this green box, this big green box starting from here up to here, this green box. So this green box is the salt plus password, obviously the encrypted password plus salt. So these particular first items, this part of the string, that means between the second dollar to the third dollar, it is the salt. It is the salt and it is the encrypted password. So that means these password, it means that these password, that means from the third dollar to up to here, this password is encrypted with SHA512 with the salt. And this is the encrypted version. And this is the encrypted version. So what we have to do, if we can drain out this one from the root account, and if we can drain out this entire string, that means starting from John to the last colon, if we can drain out that entire string, then we might be able to generate the original password, maybe with the brute forcing. However, that might take some time. Now, for a couple of other fields they used to use, this is the this field is called the last password change. So last password change means 17707. So this means that last password change, Unix generally calculates this password change from 1st January 1970. That is their convention. And suppose we have changed this password on June 28, 2017. So if you calculate the number of days between June 28, 2018 and January 1st, 1970, so you will get exactly 770s. So that is the Unix convention. And this 0 means the minimum password age. That means this string asks you to reset the password once you got the username and the password. That means the same thing exactly what banking system used to do. That means if you get the password from the bank, they will suggest that you have to change the password. So in that case, they put this string called 0. And the 90 means that how long you can use the password, the maximum length you can use the password, maximum age of your password. So here 90 means the number of days. That means it is they are asking you that you should not use your password more than 90 days. And next is 14. Next 14 means you will get alerts from the system exactly from 14 days before your password is getting expired, date of your password's expiry. And the later two parts are, I mean, this one, the next one, the black one is the expiry date. That means you can explicitly mention that when your password will be expired. Actually, these two columns, I mean, these two parts are quite redundant. That means if you suggest that you must not use your password more than 90 days, then why to why to come up with a date? So that will be redundant. That's why we left this column. And the last one is the unused field. If anything, then we can add it here. Accordingly, we have to program in the Linux file. So that is the knowledge factor. That is the password technique in the Unix. Now, this technique, I mean, we already mentioned that if we can bring out this particular string, that means this big box, all starting from John to the last colon. If we can bring out this particular string, then we easily understand, or we can easily now interpret the encrypted password along with the salts, even when they change the last password, and if there is any option to reset the password. For example, we can easily change this zero. We can easily change this zero to our own number. That means you cannot change the password. Mostly we used to perform this type of coding while doing the phishing. That means I will send you one link, and behind the link, your system, I will change this zero. Maybe in your system it is 10. So I will change it to 0, and on that particular moment, when I took over your computer, I change your password. This zero means that means the minimum age of the password is 0. That means you can reset the password now. So this string is itself very vulnerable. So therefore, we need certain techniques to hide this particular file, that file called /etc shadow. However, there are certain, this is very much private to the root, as I already discussed that this is very much private to the root. However, there are several mechanisms to drain out the password. So recently we have done it, but however, let us focus on this thing. So this is one of the techniques that might, give rise to the phishing attack. Especially this zero is very important. Now think about that. Therefore, we need, if we don't have any better arrangements for hiding this particular file, since we understood that this file is very precious for the hackers and equally precious for the roots to keep your system intact, keep your system protected. So what we have to do, if we do not have any better arrangement, so we can do one thing. We can still prolong the attack. That means today's system, if we say in this way, it is not bad. Today's system, none of the system is 100% secure, and the system which is secure now, there might be a vulnerability which is undetected. There might be an exploitable vulnerability which is undetected, since it is very new. Maybe in a couple of days, the black caps will come up with the vulnerability, and accordingly they will launch an attack to evade the security of the system. For example, if you want to try, then I can give you one example that is very huge vulnerability. I believe everybody use the Open Office, right? Open Office 4.1.3. So there is an exploitable vulnerability of the Open Office 4.1.3. So I request you to use the Metasploit. So Metasploit has a module that will evade the vulnerability of the exploit the vulnerability of the OpenOffice 4.1.3, and simply it will take over the remote computer. Now sitting in different land, I can see a particular computer in a distant location. But before that, I have to understand with certain technique that this computer runs OpenOffice 4.1.3. Please try with it 4.1.3 OpenOffice. Now, so our goal now, as I mentioned, that let us think that we do not have better arrangement to hide this file. That means we need to hide this file in a more secured location, and none of the locations is seems secured now. I'm talking about a standalone computer. Not the cloud system. Please. So now what we can do, we can still prolong the attack. That means we do the multiple type of times hashing. So that privilege is recently given by the Linux system. So you can use this SH256 and SH512 and subsequently encrypt, and that means subsequently hash your string up to 5,000 times. So that means here it will be the encrypted password, and between the ID and the salt there will be a new column called the rounds, and for this round you can put numbers from 1 to 5,000. So if you do the 5,000, that means the attacker who's trying to attack your system, or who's doing the brute forcing, I'm talking about the black cap bad guy, so he has to spend the subsequent amount of time to get the password. Since it is 5,000 times, I ran the SHA 512 up to 5,000 times. That means initially the password is ABC, and with a certain salt, I did that SHA 512 again up to 5,000 times. So the guy who's trying to brute force or trying to get your password, he is now weak. That means he has to spend a subsequent amount of time, but still we have to understand, we have to assume that the attackers have sufficiently capable machine to evade our passwords, right? So none of the system is secure. However, still we can prolong the attack. That means during that period, maybe the attackers has to spend 1 month, or attacker has to spend 15 days, and in those 15 days we can come up with a new system to defend again. So that is the attacker defender game right now what we are playing. Now, so we have already discussed about the knowledge factor. Knowledge factor has the password. However, Windows password use the NTLM. That is the hash. So Windows generally, several things also Windows used to do. That is again the Kerberos system. That is a pretty big concept. However, we are skipping the concept because right now our focus is to talk about the Unix system. Now let us let us go to the position factor. So as I discussed, the position factor means what you have. That means I may have a smart card, I may have a token, RSA token. Since today's banking system, the RSA tokens are very popular. In our university, we used to use the RSA token to, now we used to use the RSA token to open our account, or open our personal computer in our office. If we do the remote login, so or to get a server session, we have to validate with be validated with the RSA token. Now, personal identity verification card, that is okay, that is pretty well known. So so these are the two OTP available standard for generating secure token. So OTP, we all know that. So OTP, banking system, pretty popular concept of OTP. Now the inherence factor. This means who you are. That means I am talking about your behavior. However, DNA is not my behavior, I understand. But fingerprint is also not my behavior, but gait is my behavior. That means how you hold your phone, how you walk, how you run, right? How you hold your phone, how much pressure you are putting on the phone, while you are doing the double tap to activate your, activate your home screen. Facial patterns, voice patterns, hand gestures, these are quite behavior. behavioral. That means gait is behavioral. Again, hand gesture is behavioral. That means how I hold the phone, how much pressure I am putting on the phone, how I move my finger on the screen. That is called the screen fingerprint. And based on those things, we used to come up with several active authentication. Because for the password, we now understand that for the password might be a behavioral. I understand that people used to put their family name, their date of birth, their mother's date of birth, everything as their password. I understand that, but certainly that is different behavior. That is different behavior. My behavior should be something which is quite continuous. That means from the password, I cannot understand that what type of person the adversary should be. I don't know. I mean, he might put his name, put his mother's name on the password, but in reality, he might not obey his mother a lot. That might be the case. But on the other hand, we understand how you walk. It is not the money. From this, we cannot understand the human behavior, but walking style, I understand. From the walking style, if we can uniquely identify that this is the right guy, so then there is no need of the password, and your system won't ask you for providing the password again and again. So from your, if you touch your phone, for a couple of minutes, then your phone can say that you are the right user or you are not the right user. But there must be some amount of accuracy on that decision. Now think about that. If I touch my phone for a couple of minutes and my phone says that you are not the right user, so that is quite different, right? So our job is to improve the accuracy of such type of authentication system, where currently these authentication systems are certainly not the frontliner, because we cannot see any such type of authentication system in use in reality. So we have to understand that why. Now, inherence factor, after that, there is one called the location factor. That means where you are. Certainly today's, banking systems are all GPS enabled. Now, what they used to do, now think about that. If I open my bank account from my bank account now, and after 10 minutes, if I open my bank account from India, so certainly they will say that you are not the right user. Maybe your things are hacked, maybe your SIM is cloned, maybe something wrong has happened with you. So there is one bank that I found. There is one bank who's using this. This is totally online. This is a UK-based bank, and they used to use this location factor. However, Gmail has this location factor. Okay. So now, again, another one is the time factor. That means I already explained that. If I open my account, if I open my bank account from here now, and after 10 minutes, if I open my bank account from my place in India, so that will be a huge chance of some big problem. Now, so think about that. These factors. Now, the problems with these factors. That means, think about that for the fingerprint. Now, if you are only using the fingerprint, and certainly, certainly you have lost your finger, maybe in accident. The God forbidding, right? Then what you will do? That the hardship will come then. That means these type of biometrics or physiological biometrics are very hard. That means once you are lost, it is lost. They will say that you are not the right user. So you have to talk to the authorized manager, or you have to talk to the admins there. For such type of things, I believe this is quite different. This is quite tough for most of the websites and for most of us. Now think about that. If a guy in the village, he has used the fingerprint, and certainly, God forbidding, that he has lost his finger, then whom should he talk? That's a big question. Whom should he talk, and how he will talk, right? So that's why we have to mix somehow these factors. That means single factor is not somehow not working. I understand, because if you use the password, you cannot remember so many passwords. So that means you are using the same password for different websites, and you are in trouble once one password is hacked. Now, so better option is, let us mix the password, come up with a mixed type of authentication thing that is called the multi-factor authentication. For example, password and OTP. Password and OTP. That means password means that what you know, and OTP means that what you have. Now think about that individual password, breaking password. I mean already showed that password breaking is not that hard. So we have to understand what is the location of the particular file. However, people might argue that the Kerberos are more, is more secure. But there are a couple of softwares, Mimikaz and all. With that Mimikaz, you can come up with a golden ticket or even a silver ticket to escalate your privilege to become the system admin, and to increase your validation period till 1 year, maybe for how long you want. That is a big vulnerability that was discussed or discovered in 2017 in one Usenix conference. So you can see that paper. That is very good source of information that Kerberos can also be evaded. Now, let us not talk on the Kerberos. Let us stick to the password plus OTP. Now think about the password. What the password is badly broken. I mean, there is a huge chance that we can break the password. And OTP, today's OTP, if somebody, there is a technique with that, you can clone a SIM. And so, with that particular SIM, if you have the clone SIM, then instead of going to your legit user's mobile, the same message will come to your mobile. Maybe it will go to your legit user's mobile, and same message you will get in your mobile or in your system, not in mobile, because you have cloned the SIM in your mobile, in your system. So therefore, with that OTP, you can again do that. But think about that. Here lies the catch. That means we are still trying to prolong the attack. Now think about that. Password is badly broken, and OTP. If we do the SIM cloning, then we can again evade the OTP. But think about that password. How to know that it is the right password? Without OTP, you cannot simply propagate. You cannot simply progress. That means. And OTP has a validatory period of maybe 5 minutes, maybe 8 minutes. It depends upon the vendor. So therefore, if you have the right OTP, if you receive the right OTP, because you know that you are receiving the right OTP, so you have received the right OTP, then you have a number of strings for the possible password. So within that 8 minute duration, you have to use the same OTP with the password. Same OTP with the password, same OTP with another password, same OTP with another password. So that means now this is the job for the attacker. Now this attacker's job is pretty hard. However, I am not saying that this is impossible. So username and password, this is called the 1FA, because username and password mostly used systems today till date. Almost 95% cases we are using the username password, then password plus OTP, that is called the 2FA. That banking system is pretty popular. Then let us talk about the multi-factor authentication. Now from that we can increase the number of factors. We can increase the number of factors. For example, we can come up with that means we can come up with the, apart from these password and OTP, we can come up with the password, maybe one ID scanning, maybe one with one voice pattern, or maybe with a hand gesture. So we can increase the number of factors. However, here lies the problem. If you exponentially keep on increasing the number of factors in a multi-factor authentication, it will be quite hazardous. That means your system will take a huge amount of time to validate you. Now think about that. I'm trying to open the Facebook, and it takes almost 5 minutes or 8 minutes to validate you. So does anybody open the Facebook? So Facebook's popularity will be lost. So therefore, we have to think in a reasonable way to come up with a multi-factor authentication. However, we must have to think that its processing power or its processing speed should be extremely fast. And again, we have to think about the adaptive MFA. Now think about that. If I am standing in a noisy place, and my multi-factor authentication has chosen one modality or one factor called the voice recognition. Now, do you think? Now, do you think that our system will correctly identify my voice? Certainly, right now, most of the mobiles doesn't have. People are working on it. Similarly, poor light, face detection enabled. Poor light, that adaptive multi-factor authentication software asks you to provide your password, asks you to provide your voice, and asks you to provide the face detection. So that means in a poor light situation, how it will correctly identify the, I mean, there must be a vulnerability. So therefore, we have to think about everything in this way. That means our system should be adaptive. Multi-factor authentication systems should be adaptive and should be fast computing. Should provide the faster computation. Now, let us talk about the active authentication. Active authentication is introduced by DARPA a couple of years back, maybe a couple of years back, and there are till date there are several active authentication modalities. I mean, modality means that is called the screen fingerprint. That is called the screen. That is called the screen fingerprint. That is called the screen fingerprint. And there are several other. That means how you are moving. Screen fingerprint means suppose you are working on the mobile. Suppose you are scrolling the mobile, and your mobile. I mean, suppose you are scrolling the mobile, and that scroll has a certain pattern. That means, I mean, IEEE and other bodies and several other researchers suspects that everybody has their own, I mean, behavioral signature. That means own type. So therefore, we have to come up with some technology. We have to come up with some technologies to identify a guy from his signature. Maybe the fingerprint, screen fingerprint. Screen fingerprint is not the fingerprint. Screen fingerprint is how you are scrolling or how you are moving your finger on the screen, mobile screen. Now, mostly it provides the continuous authentication. Now, think about that. For the gate, suppose you have, I mean, for the mouse dynamics. Let us talk about the mouse dynamics. Since we are giving, I mean, we will give this example to show the vulnerability of one of the active authentications. So mouse dynamics means how you are continuously moving the mouse. So once you are on the system, so certainly you are moving the mouse, like this, like this. So therefore, everybody has their own, I mean, we can extract their identity from the mouse dynamics. Like other behavioral biometric, the concept is you have to identify the guy from his mouse dynamics. So this is the active authentication called the mouse dynamics. Apart from that, there are several others called the keystroke, called the hand gesture, called the gate, and mostly they are the inherence factor. Mostly they are the inherence factor. That means who you are. So you have to do some action so that your computer will uniquely identify that yes, you are the right one. Now, the active authentication is the mouse dynamics. Let us not go in detail of the mouse dynamics. However, the steps are very simple. That means how to gather the mouse dynamics. This would be, I mean, this would be one mouse dynamics. This would be one mouse dynamics, right? One mouse dynamics. That means some user has continuously moved his mouse throughout the session or throughout a certain point, certain window of time. So now we can record this particular, record this particular incident in this fashion. That means first one x coordinate, every point has the x coordinate, corresponding y coordinate, corresponding time, and corresponding screen resolution. Now think about that. I am using my computer that has a specific screen resolution. Now think about that. With the team viewer, I am trying to access my office computer that has certain different screen resolution, maybe higher, maybe lower screen resolution. So the screen resolution would be a certain factor. So these four things we will consider. And then with these four things, we will try to come up with these already explored features. There are 66 features. However, these features are quite, we have understood that these 66 features are not sufficient. There must be something beyond these 66 features. However, these 66 features, all of them are talking about the geometry of the particular mouse dynamics. So that means, think about that. I am trying to explain the user or explain the behavior of the user based on his geometry. Right? So there must be something beyond. We have to go beyond this geometry, right? Now, this is one type of one specific screen resolution, or one specific user mouse dynamics. So now, how to fool? Now think about that. this is, let us assume that this is one specific mouse dynamics on a specific or predefined time window. Maybe this, we have collected, maybe I'm not saying that maybe we have, however, these are all original mouse dynamics, but maybe this is a particular mouse dynamics of a particular user for maybe 3 or 18 milliseconds. So in that 18 millisecond or 18 second, okay, 18 second, in that 18 second, he has done this thing. So this we can, explain in with this table. This we can, because everyone has their coordinate. And from this coordinate, generally what current mouse dynamics used to do, they used to, since this guy doesn't have any equation, right? This guy doesn't have any equation, so therefore they used to convert this guy without equation to a curve with equation. That is called the cubic spline, maybe cubic spline, or maybe some other splines, maybe some other approximation methodologies. But however, we clearly understood the frailty of the current mouse dynamics, that see, this is quite different. It contains a different user signature, and this contains a different user signature. That means if I extract all these features from this guy, which those features will be extremely different from that of these guys, right? So what we did now, okay, let us evaluate. Okay, let us not rectify the current situation. Let us not rectify the current algorithm. Let us try to mimic this guy. Since our current mouse dynamics is not good, our current mouse dynamics is vulnerable, is exploitable, so let us come up with the equal, with the similar looking curve. So what we did, this is one of the small examples. However, this example is not the all. So we use the DC GAN, one of the techniques, maybe DC GAN. So this guy is very similar to this guy. And if we calculate, or if we compute all the features from this table, existing features from this table, and if we send these features, since in general mouse dynamics used to extract the feature from here, and it will send to the original computer, right? It will directly send to the original computer. So what we used to do, what we did in between the corresponding cubic spline and the benign computer, we put our decision mechanism, we put our adversarial mechanism. It is not a pure decision, first of all. So adversarial mechanism in between to generate the adversarial image, and from the adversarial image we have extracted the features, and we feed it to the benign computer. Benign computer here in our case, benign computer means the target classifier, and the classifier says that yes, you are the right user. So we can easily evade the mouse dynamics. So now this is one of the examples. Now in this case, this is the benign client. So benign client, from this benign client, one guy, one attacker, he is continuously sniffing the benign client, maybe through side channeling, maybe through exploiting certain holes in the system. For example, I have already talked about the vulnerability of OpenOffice 4.1.3, or there are several other softwares who are vulnerable. OpenOffice later versions have also vulnerabilities, and they are extremely exploitable vulnerabilities. That means I can take over your system, and I can take the picture, take your picture. That means suppose you were working on the computer, I directly activate your camera, and I will take your picture. That I can see that if some other guy is working on your computer or not. That is the thing. That type of vulnerability it has. So there are several other softwares which has vulnerability. So we assume that, by discovering those type of vulnerability, he is continuously sniffing the benign client. Benign client, especially what it's sniffing, it sniffs the benign client's mouse dynamics for a certain long period of time. Because if I take over your computer, suddenly you won't understand that what is going on. So most of the people won't understand that what is going on. I'm not talking about you. And most of the people do not have any idea that their system is already tracked or already hacked from a remote computer. So now what this guy used to do, this guy used to come up with this fine machine learning model which can easily mimic this mouse dynamics, and we fed it to the robotic arm, and the robotic arm did the mouse movement, and the benign computer, and the remote application thinks that we are the benign computer. So that type of vulnerability it has. That means this model We use this model, and this is the result of that type of vulnerability. And some of the interesting results I can show you. So it is the original user 7. User 7. We have collected this information. Actually, we have arranged one game in our campus. So we have, we have gathered this information for 2 days. There are almost 15 or 70 people, 70 students. They were playing the game, and continuously we recorded their data for 12 hours each day. 12 hours. So we have a huge database of mouse dynamics. So see, this is the original user 7. User 7. I should not disclose the name. We should not disclose the name of the student. So better to name as user 7. So user 7. This is the original mouse dynamics. Original. We have not come up. We have not converted it to the corresponding cubic spline. So what we did, this is the original one, and we use our adversarial mechanism, which is not at all a pure DC GAN. It is a different DC GAN with more stable, with a more stable learning procedure. So this is the adversarial action sequence. However, these two adversarial action sequences are very different. However, we can find some type of similarity if we are using, although that is very less, if we are using the original one. Now, instead of using the original one, what the current mouse dynamics, these guys used to do, they used to come up with the corresponding approximated version. So think about that. We designed the approximated, we evaluated the approximated version of this guy. This is the approximated I spline. Now this is very simple, and this is our adversarial I spline. Now instead of this one, if my computer trained their model, if my computer trained the model to generate this curve, then automatically the target computer will be fooled. So we have done several other experiments, and we found the corroborating evidence that the current mouse dynamics are extremely vulnerable. And moreover, the best part, the best and the easiest part of the current mouse dynamics, it doesn't have any stable and robust bot detection technique. Now think about that. We can stop our experiment and we can simply omit this type of this guy and the adversarial machine learning model. Simply let us collect one benign mouse dynamics pattern and throw it to the remote application, and the remote application will say that okay, you are the right user. Because current mouse dynamics, the remote user application has only one benign classifier, only one target classifier, which is trained with the benign user mouse dynamics of this computer. Benign mouse dynamics. Now, if I collect one benign mouse dynamics, or if I collect a lot of benign mouse dynamics, and if I continuously throw the mouse patterns to the remote applications, I believe that certainly the distant remote server application will be evaded. So that type of defenseless mechanism is mouse dynamics now. So what we have to do now, we have proposed, this is only two. I am saying only two. There are several other possible vulnerabilities in the mouse dynamics that we have detected. And now the question is, are we the black cats? No, we are not the black cat. We are not the black cat. Actually, every black cat used to defend him or her in such a way that we are not the black cat. We are only the whistleblower. That means there are certain problems in the mouse dynamics. What that can be rectified, and we are only detecting that. So I can assure you that I am not the black cat, right? So these are a couple of interesting results, and two of the reasons that certainly there are not two. There are so many. Two of the reasons that we found, they are very much, they are making the mouse dynamics very much and highly vulnerable. That is, first one is the curve approximation method. Actually, if we can, that I explained that if we can put the original curve, that will be much better, because we mimic its approximated version absolutely with high KL divergence. With extremely significant key divergence. That means it is of extremely similar curves. We are generating extremely similar curves. So if we can generate extremely similar curve, so we can train our model. That means we are generating extremely similar curve, and we train the model, and we put the model to the robotic arm memory, and the robotic arm is doing the mouse dynamics on behalf of us, and the remote application is saying that you are the right user. However, robotic arm must not be the right user. Right. So that type of vulnerability persists in the mouse dynamics, and several other. We are now working on several other active authentication things, such as actually we are focusing on the gate now, because keystroke is, always you are not typing anything, right? Because this is the area. This is the era of mobile phones, right? Smartphones. So we are not typing more much things on the mobile. So therefore, we also, only if you are on the computer, so there is a possibility that you can type. But how many times you are typing while holding the mobile, right? Everybody is scrolling. I found that everybody is scrolling something, reading something, looking something, or playing game, or maybe few among the people, they used to type something on that. Maybe you're typing on the WhatsApp. So therefore, if we want to make the active authentication a bit generalized, so I believe the gate will be the best one. However, gate will be the best one. That means if I put my mobile in my pocket and continuously working with the mobile, so after a certain time, if I try to switch on the mobile, that means if I try to double tap the mobile to activate its logon screen, the mobile will say that no, you are not the right user, you are not working properly. That is. However, we found there are several vulnerabilities like this one. That means you can work. That means your adversary can put your phone to his pocket, and he can continue work, and your mobile will say that yes, you are the right user. So that type of vulnerability. So therefore, we are trying to evade this type of vulnerability, detect this type of vulnerability, and remove this type of vulnerability to come up with more robust active authentication mechanism. So that's all from my side, and please stay safe and healthy.
Hello.
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 Participants, hello. Participants. Hello.
Hello. If any question from your side, so kindly, please.
I have a question.
There is a question from Madam
Yes,
Nanda.
please.
Hello.
Yeah, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah. No, just to understand, this multi-factor authentication is what is currently being used in many of the applications. Will how can this gel with the single sign-on if required?
The problem with that single sign-on. We believe actually the single sign-on is itself the problem, because if you log on to the computer or your mobile at the very beginning when you came to the office, and after that you left the computer, maybe it is still logged on, and some other guy will sit and work on the computer, then it might be the case that we don't expect. We don't want. It might be the case that we don't want. So, mostly we do not, we are not using the single sign-on from our point of view. From our point of view, right now we are working on the active authentication and the multi-factor authentication. So we are not using the single sign-on here, because single sign-on for the, username and password, once again, the passwords are extremely vulnerable, and brute forcing, as we mentioned, and mostly because of the poor arrangement, and none of the places in the computer or in the computer memory is hidden. So that's from my point.
Okay, no, it was my question was from the perspective of not many people accessing one device or one PC. I'm talking about one person accessing multiple applications with single credential, or I mean that
Okay, okay,
single
okay, okay.
credential
Yes,
can
yes,
that be
yes.
can that have I mean the
Yes,
OTP or
yes,
this kind of a multiple
yes,
authentication is? Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. Actually, I was thinking about a kiosk system, which is extremely vulnerable because many people are using that system. And if you keep, I mean, if you forgot to logged off a particular account, then might be that will be the case. Yes, that type of facilities are available in the multi-factor authentication today.
I mean, are there ready tools
No,
available,
no,
or
no, no,
we
no, no,
a
no,
tool?
no. Actually,
Okay.
actually, one of our patents in the United States that talks about that is called the AMFA. That tool we are currently preparing. That is called the AMFA, Adaptive MFA or Alpha MFA. You can see it in the YouTube, I believe.
Oh, adaptive MFA. Okay.
Yes, it's called the AMFA. That is a particular product that we are developing with the I2 chain.
Okay. What is I2J? Sorry.
I2 Chain is a company. It's a Silicon Valley based company.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they
Okay.
have licensed our model. So we are
Okay. Okay.
developing right now. Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Okay.
your
Okay.
question. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you for your question.
There's a question from Radhavane. Where and in which application do we utilize passphrase?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Where and in which application do we utilize passphrases? The questions is also available to you in chat box.
Okay. Let me open it. Okay, passphrases. Actually, passphrases. They said that. I mean, they said that we could say that passphrases are more secure than the. I mean, current passwords. But the problem is, it is very hard to remember, and very few of the applications. However, I didn't see any of the applications using the passphrases. However, that is a very good concept, that passphrases, because we are still trying to prolong that act.
Next question is how we can prevent or track whether there is any keylogger software installed in a particular system.
For that, I mean, we have to understand. I mean, do you use Metasploit? Metasploit is a particular tool with that you can scan the target computer to understand what type of processes are going on. So there is a add-on. It's an open source software that is called the OpenVAC. That OpenVAC, what it does actually, it used to scan the target computer and find the entire processes that are running in the target computer. And if your keylogger is not, I mean, it's running on the target computer, you can easily understand. But it depends on the nature of the keylogger. For example, now think about that. Already detected keyloggers, they have the entries in the Metasploit. But if you are trying to detect any new type of keylogger, then you have to write the corresponding Ruby code and add it to the Metasploit module. Then you can do it.
Sir, can you repeat the name of the tool? Meta?
It is called the Metasploit. Metasploit is a tool, and I mean, if you are using Kali Linux, actually Metasploit is very costly. But if you are using Kali Linux, the Kali Linux used to provide this tool, and it is a free version and full version, an updatable version. That is the best part. So if you are using the Kali Linux, then you will get the Metasploit. So, but that OpenVAC won't come with the Metasploit. So you have to add the OpenVAC to the Metasploit. And then you have to write your, suppose you are trying to, I mean, there are huge number of, there are fairly large amount of, keyloggers are already detected. So all those entries are there in the OpenVAC. So that means OpenVAC can scan a computer and can tell you that if a certain type of, keylogger is already installed in the target system. So, but if you are trying to detect some new type of keyloggers which are not already there in the OpenVAC list, then you have to write the according Ruby code, and you have to add it to the Metasploit console. Metasploit module, right? then you can. It is called the open VAC. VAC, V capital, A capital, C capital.
Sir,
That's
I
an
had a
open
question.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I had a question.
Yes, please.
May I ask? Sir,
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
wanted to,
Yes.
sir, I wanted to ask
Please,
whether
please.
key press events are also included in mouse dynamics, meaning key press events. When we touch our screen and key press events take place, are they also are they also detected through mouse dynamics?
No. There is a catch. Now there is a catch. It's a very good question indeed. It's a very good question. Actually, think about that. I mean, in our system, if I can share, I mean, let me. So, can you see the screen right now? Okay. You can see the screen. Hello. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir, I can see it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. So, I mean, I have already explained that this was the original. I mean, please see this. This was the original mouse dynamics, right? Now, so we have come up with the cubic spline, and this is the adversarial cubic spline, and thrown it to the benign computer, and through the benign computer. I mean, benign computer for the time being. Let us talk about the target classifier, right? There is no computer. Let us talk about the target classifier. So this is the target classifier. This guy is cool. Now think about that. Now that means this model is trained. Now I put the trained model to this guy's memory and move the mouse and get the remote application. Now think about that. It is so easy, but that means this guy doesn't have this target computer. That means the target classifier. This guy doesn't have any bot detection mechanism. Now, apart from this, if we can add one extra, for example, let us come up with a captcha. That means it is mouse plus captcha, right? That means you are solving the captcha. That means you are writing the captcha. For example, there are so many captchas where they used to ask that where is the car, right? There are several boxes and where is the car. So you used to, I mean, click on the car, right? So how you are clicking? If we include that part in the mouse dynamics, it will be robust. Now think about that. That is the problem. You are right. That is the problem. Today's mouse dynamics is very benign because it's very defenseless. Actually, not benign. It's very defenseless because it doesn't have this type of mechanism. You move the mouse, they will say that yes. But think about that. If you are putting one extra parameter, that is one extra defense technique. For example, you are solving the captcha and moving the mouse. This will be more robust than the benign mouse dynamics, right?
Thank you, sir.
I mean, does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Roy, for spending your valuable time with us. I hope all the participants are benefited with your knowledgeable and expert talk in the field of education, and they will also take it for their further study or for their research direction. And I am also looking for your more sessions.
Sorry, looking for
looking for more sessions in future.
Oh, sure. Please.
And kind workshop or faculty development program, but also we need your expert knowledge for our students also.
Thank you very much. Always appreciated.
Later, we will pick some schedule and slot. Okay, and thank you very much for spending your valuable time. And one request from my side, you just please share your PPT with me so that I can share that PPT with participants.
Sure, I will. Thank you very much. And I mean, this is my heartfelt gratitude from my side that you invited me to put forward some of my thoughts in the August gathering. Thank you very much.
And participants also, please.
Thank you, sir. It was a quite immense and awesome session.
Thank you very much.